This story begins in the heart of the Aries Empire, on an ordinary weekday. Everything around seems quite calm. People are enjoying life and the wonderful weather. The guards are satisfied that the revolutionaries have hidden in the shadows for now. They have caused a lot of problems recently. Maybe they realized that their rebellion was pointless, or maybe the Imperial Knights destroyed every revolutionary. In fact, at this moment, a very serious conversation was being held in the dungeon between these same revolutionaries. Their plan is incredibly simple. Tonight, they will kill the Emperor and destroy the Empire, the only way to restore the kingdom. Logan McLean must complete an important task to protect the manuscript at all costs. Many people sacrifice themselves to obtain and protect the manuscript from the Empire. As soon as Logan gets his hands on this manuscript, the Knights of the Empire will immediately begin hunting him down. He will be obliged to risk his own life in order to fulfill his duty. In fact, his motivation is not patriotism at all. He lives for revenge. Previously, many years ago, Logan was a very weak person. He lost to his younger brother Ronan. This is strange because his younger brother only started training with a sword 3 years ago. Logan, on the other hand, has been actively training for 10 years to become a knight. It's strange that this stupid and weak boy turned out to be the older brother. The future of the McLean family is quite bleak. A little later, Logan poisoned his younger brother with a paralyzing poison. The father was incredibly angry and ordered his eldest son to get out of there. Logan suffered from feelings of inferiority and hurt his younger brother, for which he was expelled from the family. After leaving home, he decided to become a mercenary. Only after 10 years of hard work did he realize what a terrible person he had been before. A little later, returning to the city, he heard strange conversations on the streets. According to rumors, the public hanging of Ronan McLean will take place in the square this afternoon. He used auras and fought against the Empire on the front lines. Logan immediately started to hurry. He had to tell his younger brother something, so he couldn't die. Logan was in a hurry. He ran to the central square at top speed, but he didn't have time. His younger brother was beheaded. That's what happens when you rebel against the Empire. With tears in his eyes, Logan vowed revenge on the Empire for killing his family and for taking away his chance to ask for forgiveness. Many years have passed. This red-haired guy holds the sacred manuscript in his hands. Now the Knights will do everything to stop him. They know how important this manuscript is to the Empire, so they will act harshly and quickly. Logan felt that he had reached a dead end. He had nowhere to run, so he had to accept the fight. Over all these years of working as a mercenary, his martial arts skills have reached a new level. Now he is not as weak as he was before. He is a truly strong and powerful warrior. When he killed the Knights of the Empire, it was noticeable that he enjoyed the process. Soon he was completely surrounded. There were too many Knights. Logan would not be able to escape. Realizing that he was destined to die right now, he accepted his fate. So if he was going to die, he would die beautifully. He activated a mysterious artifact and blew himself up along with the Knights of the Empire. His life was filled with regret. He existed for revenge, so at least minimally, he got revenge. Although, of course, he can't even forget his greatest pain after death, because he never asked his family for forgiveness. Fortunately, if he manages to meet his family in his next life, he will be able to apologize to them. Finally, he saw a flash of light in his eyes, and then he found himself back in the real world. He couldn't understand what had happened. His head hurt so badly, it felt like he wasn't dead. A servant named Rick came to him, a young guy who wanted to make sure his master was alive. The problem is that Rick died 30 years ago, and Logan remembers it perfectly from his past life. He started asking this guy questions, and he decided that his master had lost his mind. Because of this, the raccoon began to actively call a doctor. He was too concerned about his master's health. Looking out the window, Logan saw many emblems of his house. It seemed like it was all just a dream. At this moment, Ronan's younger brother entered his room. He wanted to make sure that Logan was okay. Our main character remembers this moment very well. It happened after their first duel. He lost to his brother. And after he came to him, Logan started yelling at his brother and blaming him for all the problems. Strangely enough, this little boy never paid any attention to all the insults and continued to follow his older brother everywhere. That was until that day. After all these insults, he stopped coming. Now the story must change. Logan asked the Ronin to come to him. The younger brother apologized and said he should have been more careful. Logan replied that it was all just trifles. A fraternal duel is just a formality to improve skills. There is nothing wrong with it. After that, Logan couldn't stand it and started crying. Memories from his past life making his heart suffer. Well, it's hard to watch and understand that such a kind and pleasant guy's life was taken away in the future. He fought on the front lines on the orders of the kingdom and died, so now is the perfect time to ask for forgiveness. Logan said that he was very guilty before him, and then hugged his brother. They agreed to meet a little later, and their relationship had never been at such a good level. Now that Logan was alone in the room, he realized that this didn't feel like a dream. He really went back in time, which means he has to change history. Maria entered the room and immediately apologized to her master. Logan had completely forgotten that he had treated his servants very badly before, so they apologized to him even for the smallest of things. He asked them to calm down and bring him a pen and paper immediately. Rick and Maria were scared. They thought Logan wanted to do something very bad to them with the help of pen and paper. They had to be calmed down, and after a while the request was fulfilled. Logan asked everyone to leave his room. Now he needs to be patient and change his attitude towards his immediate environment. He wants to start by writing down everything that happens in the future so he doesn't forget about it. A war against the Empire in 10 years. Disasters that will destroy not only his family, but an entire nation. His goal is very simple. He must change history and avoid all these problems. First, we need to pay attention to the vassal war that will happen in a year. It will be unexpected and will partially destroy his family. After this, dark times will begin for the McLean family, so we must do everything to prevent this war from happening. Obviously, for this you need to meet your father. He also plays an important role in this story. In a past life, the father abandoned his eldest son. A repetition of this plot cannot be allowed. Then, rather funny things started happening. As soon as the servants saw the eldest son of the family, they immediately got scared. Everyone was starting to get worried and not know how to behave. It seemed like Logan had been really bad with them before. He got a chance at a second life, so he has no right to repeat his mistakes. It's time to change. He asked them to calm down and not be afraid of him, although his face said something completely different. Because of this, they feared him even more. The sudden change in his character seemed strange. It took more time for everyone around him to get used to it. He will have to wait and continue to show everyone else that he has changed. And of course, he should show his smile less because it doesn't look at all like the smile of a good person. It's time to meet his father. In a past life, Logan was offended by him after his father kicked him out of the family. He considered him a cold-blooded man who did not trust his son, a cruel father who heartlessly expelled his own child. Logan didn't even come to him after he lost consciousness due to an injury in an official duel. This guy was too stupid in his past life, but now he has to change. Patrick McLean looked stern. He wanted to understand why his eldest son had come. Of course, Logan would like them to hug each other, but for his father, the story flows in a completely different direction. Logan explained that he had come to ask for permission to engage in personal training near the family cemetery. In order to win the regional war, you need to improve your qualities, make your knights stronger, and strengthen their equipment. To do all this, you need a lot of money, so this is what you need to focus on right now. In the Ares Empire, his McLean family is known as a family of poor people. They have almost no free money. Logan knows how to change this. Thanks to an event that will happen in 3 months, he will be able to earn a lot of money. To do this, you need to improve your martial arts skills and gain the right to vote. After losing to his younger brother, Logan doesn't want to run away. He said he's learned his lesson and is ready to become better. The father wasn't going to believe his son's words. He had known for a long time that Logan had problems with discipline. His eldest son only talks a lot but does little, so he better go. All this time, instead of admitting his weaknesses, Logan showed aggression towards others. He was too stupid. Now he apologizes and explains that this training can help him take control of his emotions. This time his words seemed much more serious, so his father decided to give him a chance. After a short conversation, Patrick gave his son permission to train, which was a minimal victory, but a victory nonetheless. Several days passed after this conversation. Logan tried not to waste any time. Only immediate family members are allowed in the entire place, so no one interferes with the training. This gives Logan the perfect opportunity, and he can't let others see his training methods. He took with him a book with the secrets of the divine sword. In a past life, he had memorized it and burned this manuscript so that the Empire would not receive it. The middle of this book described secrets that were passed down by a hero of ancient times. This hero defeated the dragon that ruled the world. Logan was able to encrypt this book using the secret code of the Independent Army so that no one could read it. If the book is true, then after studying it, the boy will become incredibly powerful. In his past life, he had little talent, and this prevented him from becoming a great warrior. The life force that changes the body is called power. It is the basis of the secrets of the divine sword. After returning to this world, it seems to him that his life force works completely differently. He thought it would take him a few days to form the inner core of energy, but it turned out to be even easier than he expected. After a few minutes, its internal energy core was formed. It was hard to even dream of such an outcome, as while the core was forming, powerful energy was generated inside it. which was absorbed by his body. Now his strength must reach a completely different level and make him a legendary warrior. His body and senses had completely changed, adapting to the need to wield the sword. Logan can't understand why the core of power formed so quickly. At this rate, he will become very strong in just a few months. The training continued day and night. Logan had almost no rest and was approaching the last day of training. Of the 10 sword techniques recorded in the manuscript, he learned almost all of them. All that remains is to master the time slicing. With the single core of 1 star, he will be able to do this. The result was truly impressive. All the time spent training was worth it. All this power is greater than he expected. It is obvious that an ordinary beginner would not be able to master this technique so quickly. Even though he spent all his strength after the first hit, it's not bad to have such an ace up his sleeve. Logan went to his father to tell him about his results, but he was told that Patrick McLean didn't want to see him right now. According to family law, even direct relatives cannot meet with the owner without prior notice. This law has been in place for several hundred years, although it is strange because in a past life this did not happen. With the help of his new skills, John began to hear much better. All his characteristics improved. He heard the knights laughing at him and discussing the situation. They consider him a weakling who fled after defeating his own younger brother. Now his reputation is at its lowest point. Even the knights mock him. He planned to demonstrate his changes and change his reputation step by step, but he would have to act more aggressively. He turned to a knight named Dominion and said that one cannot obey laws that have long been irrelevant. The knights around were surprised. They did not expect such a plot twist. Logan also said that he was offended by the knights' agreement and that he would not allow unjust insults. That's why he took out his gloves and threw them in the Dominion's face. This is how in ancient times they challenged their opponent to a duel, so a battle awaits us. This behavior greatly offended the knight. He has no choice but to accept the duel. It's time to look at the progress Logan has been able to make over all these months of training. Soon they took up arms and prepared for battle. The knights around were sure that the young heir to the family would lose, because he had lost even to his younger brother. No one believes in his victory because facing him is a real King Kong in armor. Nevertheless, John looks calm and confident. He knows that he has become much stronger than in his past life. The duel has officially begun. Now we will be able to see which of these two is the strongest. Dominion is not going to spare his opponent. He has been offended and he wants revenge. Logan immediately began to analyze his opponent. He wouldn't be scared by all these cheap tricks. The guy sees that the Dominion has poor control over his strength and energy. He doesn't know how to control himself. Logan said that this knight's best years were behind him, and this angered him even more. Time passes very quickly. The juniors are rising in rank, and the Dominion, at 40 years old, was the weakest in the knightly order and was planning to retire. Usually he just went about his business while waiting for retirement. But as soon as he heard that his best years were behind him, his inner fire immediately ignited with renewed vigor. Logan's servants were frightened. They believed that now there would not be even a wet spot left of their master. Dominion has long since decided to retire, so he has nothing to lose and can show everything he is capable of. Logan decided to use the grand triple kill technique, which helped stop the enemy's attack. Dominion immediately felt incredible pain in every part of his body. He fell to the ground and dropped his sword, giving the impression that this was an experienced knight capable of anything. The spectators of this battle were shocked. No one could believe what they were seeing with their own eyes. Not only the knights were surprised, the servants also watched this battle and could not believe their eyes. Because everything happened so quickly, some didn't even have time to see the blow from the eldest heir of the family. Logan looked at the duel judge and said he was willing to give the Dominion a second chance. This knight still couldn't understand what had happened to him. There were tears in his eyes, and his hands were shaking as if he had seen a nightmare. It's hard for him to believe that he really turned out to be weaker than this slug. He should have retired earlier. Understanding this situation has angered him even more. He does not want to accept this shameful defeat. Dominion swung and tried to strike back, but Logan again proved to be the better one. His reflexes, speed, and strength increased several times, taking him to a new level as a warrior. The Dominion wanted to admit defeat, but he needed to be taught a lesson for his insolent behavior. Logan had shown enough mercy to a vassal who had tried to rebel against his master, so now it was time to be more cruel. Everyone around must understand that times have changed, and Logan is no longer a weak boy to be beaten. It was hard to watch. Logan had recently lost to his younger brother, and now he had easily defeated the experienced knight. It's hard to believe that it's possible to change your skills so much in 3 months. He not only awakened his power, but also completely changed his sword technique. It felt like he had been training for several decades. The court had no choice but to officially recognize that Logan McClane had won the duel. After that, it was finally time to meet his father. He realized that his son had woken up, probably during training. Logan said that he was healed from his problems and ready to forget about the past. He had worked a lot on his thinking and emotions. In his past life, everything was about the same. Only after refusing to avenge his family did he find true strength. The father is pleased that his son has really changed. He has finally come to an understanding of life. Everything is great, but Patrick McClane is unhappy that after his son woke up, he immediately attacked the pensioner. Logan tried to explain that this knight deserved punishment. He behaved too impudently towards him. All of this is true, but the father is sure that there was no need to go so far. Logan has a different opinion. That knight tried to deceive his master's son and mocked him. If such behavior is not punished, discipline in the home can be undermined. The hierarchy is the trunk that allows the entire structure to function. It cannot be allowed to wobble, because the balance will be disrupted. During his 10 years as a mercenary, Logan realized that discipline is very important in any community. Today's situation will be a lesson for all the other knights. The Dominion made a mistake. He forgot his duties and tried to deceive Logan. The father forgave his son, but nevertheless ordered him to keep himself under control. Patrick McClane also reminded that Logan still hasn't received an official rank. After that, the conversation changed direction. The father reminded that Logan's fiancée would soon come to visit them. Finally, they will see each other again. His chance to make money is already coming to him. Soon, Rena Wolves finally arrived at her fiancé's, and she was immediately met by the knights of the court. It is immediately noticeable that this girl is incredibly beautiful. She was probably a real superstar in those days. They hadn't seen Lord McClane for a very long time, during which time she had become a real lady. The last time she was in this house was when she was a child. Now she has changed a lot. It seemed like everyone was happy. But only Logan didn't look like a guy who was happy to meet this girl. He should have been happier than anyone else because she was his future bride. But Logan remained calm and showed no emotion. Rena read a letter from her father. She said that he was asking to cancel the engagement. Her father, Kyron Wolves, believed that Patrick McClane would become an aura user again, but he had been at the level of a high-ranking knight for 20 years. To be honest, his eldest son is also too weak, so there's no point in teaming up with them. That is why the decision was made to break off the engagement, and this news greatly angered the Lord. Lord Wolves breaks off the engagement without adequate reason, which means he wants to personally insult Lord McClane and his family. Rena guessed that this was how the Lord would take this news, which is why she had personally arrived to resolve any misunderstanding. Memories of how she lived in this place for a whole year as a child still hold an important place in her memory. The moments created with the young Master Logan in this beautiful and pleasant place, she will never give up these memories. In any case, Rena is connected to her family and therefore must follow their instructions. She thinks it would be better for her to apologize in person to Lord and Logan. At that moment, Marion Kiros came out of her room and said that she wanted to hear about all these circumstances in person. Marion is Logan's stepmother and Ronan's biological mother. She has long considered Logan her enemy due to inheritance issues. It seemed to him that she would not interfere in this situation. But the honor of the family is a completely different matter. Rena apologized, but said she couldn't say anything because she didn't know the real reason for this situation. With tears in her eyes, she said that she was destined to marry and become part of another family. Her father does not discuss important decisions with her. So she came to talk about breaking off the engagement, without revealing the real reason for this decision. The young lady replied that her family was willing to pay 3 million gold coins as compensation. As soon as the head of finance at the McClane house, Dwayne Fielsner, heard about this amount, he almost lost consciousness. Logan knew this would happen. He smiled calmly because he realized that finally there would be no problems with money. It seemed so until Lord McClane started shouting and showing his incredible anger. His screams made everyone around him feel sick. It was as if he had activated a deadly aura. The young lady's protector immediately stepped forward to cover her body. His name is Rockfern. He is a warrior of the House of Wolves, and he asked Patrick McClane to calm down so that he can continue the conversation calmly. Although they are of different ages, both are high-ranking knights. Surely the injury to the young star of the Wolves' house will be a fair measure for the humiliation of the honor of the McClane house. Lord McClane is called a man of honor, so the young knight hopes Patrick will not offend Rin. Nevertheless, Lord McClane is still incredibly angry with Kyron Wolves, who instead of coming here in person, sent 2 children. A guest remains a guest even when he brings bad news, so the McClane house will not insult them. However, the offer of money will not be accepted. Instead, Rena must apologize to Logan. Patrick will not accept any other compensation. This is exactly what knights expected from their master. This is how we should be true aristocrats. Logan raised his hand and turned to his father. He is worried about the breakup of the engagement and wants to ask for something. He reminded his father that they really needed money. 3 million is the budget for next year, so it's a huge amount. Half of the money comes from the stepmother's family. As soon as they stop providing for her, the McLean family will become bankrupt. The father doesn't understand what he's doing, so they have to get this money at any cost. Patrick is unable to go back on his words. His son's proposal angered the Lord even more. Logan immediately felt an incredible pressure. Although his father has no aura, he is a high-ranking knight. Patrick stated that their house was not so poor as to give up honor for money. Logan continued the argument. He reminded them that they had debts to the bank, and every year they had to pay interest, which was 50,000 coins. Without the support of the Marion family, they will soon become bankrupt and a large poorhouse. Rena intervened in the conversation. She said that her family is intelligent, and they respect the honor of the McLean family very much. Logan didn't like this. She came to announce the cancellation of the engagement, but she keeps talking about intelligence. It all seems absurd. The girl was very upset to hear these words from Logan. For her, it was personal. In a past life, he believed that Rena was genuinely upset about the breakup of their relationship. Before all this happened officially, she told him about it in a personal conversation. Logan was very upset. His life was falling apart, and the decision to risk everything for the woman he loved seemed like the best option. He suggested that she run away together, but at that moment she took a large knife out of her pocket. A few seconds later, he saw her throw this weapon at him in an attempt to kill him. Only at the last moment did he manage to protect his life, although he still did not understand what was happening. Rena smiled and said that a guy like him couldn't own her. He should understand where his place was and take her away. She already knew that he lost to his younger brother. Perhaps because of this, she decided to break off any relationship with him. He tried to talk to her and understand how she was feeling, at which point the girl started screaming. She did this so that her bodyguard would come in. She immediately informed him that Logan was trying to kill her. She planned all of this almost perfectly. Logan was to blame for many things, and the family no longer trusted him. As a result, his family had to apologize to the wolves and pay a huge compensation. Logan could no longer trust women after that. He is sure that this time she planned to profit from the whole situation. Her cunning knows no bounds. Now he's much more experienced than before, so she won't succeed. To begin with, Logan decided to change his reputation in the family. It seemed to him that if he showed himself from a new side step by step, everything would change. One day his family will change their attitude towards him, and then his reputation will be restored. These were his thoughts. But the battle with the Dominion made it clear that the guards were turning a blind eye to the disrespect shown towards him. During his absence, even more rumors appeared. It is unknown whether it is possible to influence one's family by receiving recognition from similar people. With 9 months left until the regional war, his reputation is very important now because he must save his family. He looked at Rin and said that he would accept her offer of compensation despite his family's wishes. Not only was she surprised, the father also couldn't believe his own ears. His son going against his father's words. Logan explained that he wasn't interested in empty apologies. If their honor was worth a few words floating in the air, then he didn't need such an honor. Rena looked at the Lord and said that her family would only listen to Patrick McLean, so she wanted to hear the final decision. She says this to save her father's reputation, probably feeling bad inside from the thought that she will have to pay 3 million. As a true Lord, Patrick believes that an apology would be enough for him, but he gives the opportunity to make the final decision to his son. Finally, he warned Logan that if he sold his honor, he would always agree to that amount in the future. The boy apologized to his father, but he cannot give in, and therefore accepts money as compensation. It was noticeable that Rena was hoping for a completely different outcome of the negotiations, but today was her day. The father was very upset. He thought his eldest son had changed, but today it turned out that he had changed for the worse. Patrick himself is to blame for not telling his son about the true value of honor. Patrick McLean doesn't understand that his son is doing this for the happiness of his family. Maybe one day he will understand all this. Soon the McLean family received money, admittedly, a huge sum. The family's financial manager, Dwayne, entered Logan's room. This man manages the family's finances and is the Lord's closest confidant, so he came with a smile on his face for a reason. David understands that Dwayne has faced the biggest challenges of his life. As the head of the family's finances, he had to cut the budget for the entire castle. Previously, he had to supplement the lack of money and beg others for help. If he were not a family member, he would have been released long ago. Now, finally, he has a chance to improve the situation for a few years. His opponent is a young fool. Dwayne came to do everything possible to take the money for himself. He said that Logan was good because he stood his ground. He said a lot of good things about Logan. He probably thinks his long tongue will help in this matter. Dwayne probably doesn't understand that this young guy isn't going to share the money with anyone. The man immediately remembered the last 20 years of a difficult life. All this time, he had managed the finances of the McLean family. They were constantly helped by the Kiros family. And if it weren't for them, the McLean family would have starved to death long ago. Now the McLean family has a bank debt of $3 million, and we must not forget about the annual interest. Logan said he knew about it all along, but reminded them that it was harvest time, so the family would be able to pay the interest. Logan said that he would spend all this money on his family, not on the costs of current debts. Dwayne couldn't believe that his plan could fail. He came for the money, but so far nothing has worked out. You can spend money to cover debts, but the situation will not change in the future because they have no goods to sell. It's a vicious circle. John wants to change this whole situation once and for all, so the money will go towards implementing the plan. This is no longer the bully Dwayne knew before. This kid no longer cares about his family. Logan said that if Dwayne helped him, he could share the money with him. It turned out that Logan wanted to hire a large number of mercenaries. Soon, Logan ended this conversation and began to gather his belongings and weapons. Rick couldn't understand where his master was going again. He had only recently returned from training. Logan explained that it was time to start making money again, even despite recent earnings. Rick is sure that the Lord will be against this idea. The atmosphere in the estate has been too tense lately. That's probably why Logan decided to go somewhere he didn't want to hear all this boring talk. If we don't influence our reputation now, he won't be able to change, so we need to organize an army. Logan is very lucky because he knows what is happening there now. It was at this time that he was kicked out of the house in his past life. Logan left a message for his father so no one would blame his servant for what happened. Perhaps this was only in theory because when Lord McLean began to read the letter, his deadly aura was immediately activated. Logan wrote that the cancellation of the engagement broke his heart, and he decided to leave the house for a while and return soon. 200 years ago, the McLean house was not in the same condition as it is now. It was a vast territory that flourished inside and out. This territory was respected by everyone around, even the master and ruler of the southern part of the Grandia kingdom. However, the fruitless rule of 3 generations led to a lowering of the family's rank and a reduction in the territories under their control. The vast grain holdings that had previously been part of the McLean family were transferred to an experienced vassal and divided in the future. The place the McLeans found themselves in was a harsh and dry land next to the southern mountains. There are no products or minerals there. In such conditions, even if you win a regional war, you still have to ask for help. In order to break this cycle, much more money is needed than is currently available. And in the city of Kyle, there is a person who can provide this money. If Logan is not mistaken, this man lived his entire youth in this city. He is called the Golden Beetle, and his real name is Philippe Claude. The Ares Empire is the strongest nation on the continent, a powerful centralized government that operates through a system of achievements. Regardless of gender or age, a person who has talent will always have the opportunity to achieve success and enjoy power and wealth. Even foreigners have this right. Philippe Claude from the Kingdom of Grandia is a great example. He uses his money and power to make the Grand Duchy an independent state. It's hard to believe, but this guy looks a little different now. His time hasn't come yet. Rumor has it that his business failed due to fraud, which is even hard to watch. Philip was sad and thought about dying. It seemed that all his dreams were destroyed at once. Logan greeted him. He finally found the one he was looking for, so now it was time to talk a little. In Logan Phillip's eyes, he immediately saw something that the businessman had encountered many times before: greed. Judging by the time he arrived and the old armor on his body, Philip guessed that he was a mercenary. He started shouting and said that it was not yet time to pay the debt. He would only receive the money in 3 days. Then he would be able to pay. Logan couldn't understand what was happening. He tried to explain that he didn't come to take the money. He soon explained that his real goal was investment, so he was misunderstood. It seems crazy, but Logan is really getting ready to invest in a person who recently lost everything. Philip was surprised. He wanted to understand how much money could be invested in him, and also tried to understand this guy's motivation. If you look closely, you can see that the armor is quite dirty, so he came from afar. Logan thought he had almost agreed on everything and was satisfied with his acquaintance. At that moment, Philip called him a dirty rat. Logan thought he heard it. Nevertheless, Philip spoke seriously. He would not let anyone deceive him. and now he understands that he is not an investor at all. The symbol on his armor indicates that he is a member of the southeastern barony of McLean. They are a poor family that asks for help from their relatives, so there can be no talk of any investment. Then Philip started crying and saying that he was completely bankrupt and his life was almost worthless. Now we need to figure out how to calm this insecure guy. He doesn't even have money for food. Logan decided to activate his power and show that he has real talents. Maybe this will change the situation. It really worked. Philip apologized for his behavior and said that lately he had been reacting too sharply to various events. Logan said he came to hire Philip for permanent service and, as a bonus, pay off his loan. Philip thought there wasn't that much money in the McLean house, and it was at that moment that Logan pulled out a suitcase with money. He opened it and showed that he was very serious and did not intend to deceive anyone. He prepared 550,000 gold coins for Philip and said that he was ready to pay it all at once. The boy who would be called the Golden Beetle in the future was shocked. It seemed like an angel who had come down from heaven to save his life. Soon the contract was signed not only in ink but also in blood, a common procedure in the past. Now, if Philip wants to do something bad to his master, he will feel his soul being torn apart. If this does not suit him, he must awaken his power and become a high-ranking knight, or pay money to a sorcerer to remove the curse. After signing the treaty, Philip did not look very happy. It seemed as if he had become a slave. Now he looks at Logan and doesn't see an angel in him, although in any case the McLean family member acted quite strangely. With this money, he could have bought 30 slaves, but he chose to invest in a loser. That's why he started a conversation with Philip and said that now he needed guarantees. When they get to know each other better, the contract can be terminated, because the main thing is trust. It's strange, they didn't discuss any terms, but they still shook hands. Philip decided to take a chance. To begin with, his first task will be to buy monster meat. There is poison in the monster's flesh, so it is burned. But in a few years, the situation will change when everyone learns that the poison can be neutralized. In some areas with a shortage of food, they will begin to feed on monster meat. And in just a few months, the number of men who will cure all their male problems will increase. Even those who have become infertile after injury will see the effect. A year after that, the Imperial Magic Tower will confirm this. The name So will disappear from stores across the continent because it has an effect on male power. This is how Logan will be able to earn much more than the 3 million he has now. So far, his enthusiasm has not been transmitted to Philip. After signing the contract, this guy's even thinking about running away. He couldn't believe that he would have to buy 1 million worth of monster meat. It seemed absurd. Logan said that he was confident in his decision. Now this meat is worth almost nothing. It is being burned, so there are no buyers. That's why if you order monster corpses from someone, you can spend much less money, taking into account the kingdom's transportation fees. If you bring several batches at once, you can save on shipping and spend these on hiring guilds for hunting. Philip believes that this is completely the wrong approach. Now everyone throws away monster meat anyway, so it's enough to just buy it back. There are enough mercenaries who are willing to bring and sell anything for coins. If they see someone else trying to get rid of the meat, they can buy it for Logan. After that, Logan and Philip will have a huge amount of meat at their feet. This guy is a truly brilliant businessman. Philip asked to be given the opportunity to engage in financial planning. Logan agreed and gave him a list of items to buy in the near future, until he is going to tell you that all these goods will be needed for weapons for war. In a past life, weapons made from these materials were used to invade the grandiose kingdom. Even a miserable soldier with his help was able to keep the night under control. Logan entrusted Dwayne with recruiting mercenaries who would receive this weapon and gain an advantage in the upcoming war. Of course, you need to find a craftsman who will make this weapon and an instructor who will teach you how to use it. 2 days after that, Logan found himself in the mercenary city of Harun and met with the mercenary Kai. He wants to hire him as an instructor, but Kai has never done anything like this before. John assured that there was nothing difficult about this job. It was just a matter of training low-ranking mercenaries. Logan knows him from a past life, so he is sure that he is the right person for this case. Although he can master any weapon and skill, his value will increase after starting work as an instructor. He's not in the best of moods right now, so it's time to offer him a solid reward. Logan said he was willing to pay 4,000 gold coins for this job. A high-ranking mercenary can earn half that amount per month at most, so this is a really good offer. Hai decided to raise the price a little and said that he likes tasks where you have to fight. Logan had no choice but to raise the price to 8,000 coins. After that, they came to an agreement very quickly, so they have the same views on this business. Kai immediately bowed to his new master and said that he would work as hard as ever. Soon they went on other errands together and saw a somewhat interesting situation. A man with a large chain beat his slaves on the backs with all his strength. Everyone around knows that Harun is called the city of mercenaries and slaves. There will be many such scenes ahead. If you go further, you can reach the center of the slave market, where you can become the owner of a person for a solid reward. Logan knows this very well. He's going to go in there and buy himself a special slave. There are a lot of guards in the center of the market. It seems he finally found the very place he was looking for. Logan approached the old man and said he wanted to buy himself a gnome. He was told that he had come to the right address. Unusual races are very rare, so they are monitored especially closely. He was invited inside and shown the available exotic slaves. Catching elves is always very difficult. Some people have never seen such interesting creatures in their entire lives. The old man wanted to tell him a lot more, but Logan asked him to be quiet and bring him the dwarf. He pointed his finger at an old gray-haired man with a long beard. It was a real dwarf, similar to Gimli from Lord of the Rings. The elder said that among the great dwarves' masters, this man is one of the few who has the rank of expert. By nature, gnomes are excellent at working with their hands. They create and repair objects, and see this as the meaning of their lives from childhood to old age. The expert rank is much higher than what Logan was looking for. With this dwarf, you won't have to worry about the quality of the weapon. It turned out that this slave would cost at least 200,000 coins, which is no small sum. Logan replied that he was not a fool at all, and was not going to pay more than necessary, so the price should be reduced by 4 times. Although it was very daring, this strategy worked, because the true price of a dwarf is much lower than 200,000. Within a few minutes, the deal was signed. The old man was extremely unhappy that he had sold the expert so cheaply. The dwarf tried to understand why he had been bought and where he was being taken. He was afraid that he would be made a servant in the house. Logan said that they were going to the McLean estate in the southwestern lands. Now the dwarf would be engaged in making items. Dwarves are indeed very skilled craftsmen at making objects, but this does not apply to those who were sold into slavery. Despite their natural talents, without passion they cannot create true works of art. That's why the gnome needs to regain his enthusiasm. Logan said that if the gnome works successfully for 20 years, he will become free. For a dwarf, 20 years is nothing, so he should be pleased with this news. Judging by his face, he took these words very close to heart. At that moment, they noticed that one of the slaves had started to run away, and they tried to stop him. It was a young boy with multicolored eyes, carrying another small slave on his back. They were soon caught. It's hard for 2 at a time to escape from the big guys. Of course, they deserved serious punishment for this, and there is no doubt that they will be beaten for a very long time. Kai said that we shouldn't pay too much attention to the slaves, and it's better not to stay in this place for long. Logan understood this, but he couldn't help but notice the multicolored eyes. He had seen them before somewhere. After thinking a little about the past, he realized that now he was facing a young version of Victor. He can't believe that he will actually meet an aristocratic murderer here. In a past life, a very famous aura user lived in the kingdom. Initially, he was an ordinary slave who escaped by killing his master. He was wanted for the murder of a huge number of soldiers and knights, as well as aristocrats, so he went into hiding as a criminal. This continued for 10 years, and when he reappeared, he was already using an aura, and showed that he had become superior to ordinary people. This led to the murder of the entire family that previously owned it, and since then he has been killing every aristocrat he sees in the grandeur. The incident of the disappearance of this slave occurred a year after Logan became a mercenary, which is why this person should not be bought yet. If he saves this person, then he will have an aura user on his side in the future. Of course, there is one problem. It's a real homicidal maniac who is more ferocious than any beast. However, something could be done to stop him, so Logan decided to intervene and protect the boy. The seller immediately changed his behavior and explained that when the product doesn't obey him, he has to educate these slaves. Logan said he wanted to buy them, and they immediately explained to him that children's eyes are different colors, which is why they are expensive. A normal slave costs about 3,000, but this man raised their price 3 times, and that's not very good behavior. Logan said he wasn't going to overpay for slaves who were barely standing on their feet. He believed they already had 1 foot in the grave. The seller was still trying to avoid a cheap sale and was doing everything he could to raise the price. I had to take up arms and show the seriousness of my intentions. This was enough to change the man's expression and scare him to death. He admitted that these slaves always caused problems, and in the future they would only get worse, so he would have to sell them. Thus, the brother and sister were bought for a cheap price and decided to join Logan and his men. As they walked together, Logan carefully imbued the children's bodies with magic to restore their strength. A little later, Victor gathered courage and decided to start the fight again. This guy is constantly attacking everyone around him in order to save himself and his sister. We'll have to show him who's in charge here and put everything in its place. Logan said he shouldn't have looked like a typical slave owner. He admits that Victor has a fighting spirit, but he must learn to choose his opponents wisely. Logan hopes he doesn't have to do it twice. If Victor and his sister listen to him, they'll be safe. Of course, if this doesn't happen again, because in that case they will face a very harsh punishment. It must have been a cruel dialogue, but it was necessary to explain to the children what was happening. He said he was going to make them knights because a knight is a respected aristocrat. At first, Victor couldn't believe these words, but then he confidently stated that he agreed. Surely his cruel nature can be controlled through his sister. The main thing is to do it right. Logan said they would start training when they got home, and then turn to Hamar. He said they needed to step aside and talk to each other about signing the contract. The contract will be magical. If the dwarf serves 20 years, he will peacefully return to the mountains. It was hard to believe, but McLean really did offer excellent conditions. Hamar was incredibly pleased and thanked his savior. Yesterday, he could only dream of something like this. Tears came to his eyes very quickly, so the contract is enough to get him motivated again, and that's great news. Thanks to which, Logan will be able to get everything he wants, although even more, because he got the aristocrat killer. Preparations for the upcoming war are proceeding at a fairly good pace. Logan doesn't yet know that rumors of his strange behavior have already spread throughout the McLean estate while he has been away. His reputation has currently sunk to the bottom. Rick is trying to change something, but he is failing. Soon they finally returned and met a servant who constantly does everything for his master. Rick was very happy to see Logan and learn that everything was okay. He also wanted to understand why the owner had been away for so long and what he had been doing all this time. He soon revealed that everyone around him was calling him Logan because of spending a lot of money on monster meat. Of course, this could not be hidden, because Philip was actively involved in buying monster meat and said that he was doing it on behalf of Logan McLean. It was believed that rumors about buying meat from more than selling it on the market. But Logan's past prevented this, and everyone around him knew that he was a stupid guy who lost a duel to his own younger brother. Few people respected him, and no one wanted to deal with him. Despite such thoughts, Philip's instincts screamed that he should not miss the opportunity. He began to offer big money for this meat, and no mercenary would refuse to sell garbage even to a fool if he was willing to pay. They were happy and prepared to give away all the monster meat they had. Thus, rumors of Logan and his deeds spread across a large area. Philip completed his task almost perfectly. Logan is really satisfied with his work. Rick doesn't look happy. He looked at those Logan brought with him and called these people very questionable. It turns out that even the Lord is angry about all these rumors, and this could lead to problems. Soon the son came to his father to talk. He said that his journey had been very useful. Patrick McLean already knows about his son's affairs, but he's glad Logan spent his time usefully. Rumors are just rumors. The father is pleased with what his son is doing. At this moment, the stepmother intervened in the conversation. She started yelling at Logan again and said that he had forgotten his place. In her opinion, the guy's behavior is destroying part of their family and negatively affecting their image. She had to explain that Logan spent almost none of the money and that he received it from Rin Wolves. The stepmother of the Marians screamed for a long time, but fortunately the Lord intervened and ordered them to immediately shut up. He can't listen to all this nonsense anymore and asks to be left alone with his son. He is ready to give him a final warning, but not in front of her. These words sounded quite strange and had a hidden meaning. Logan understood it immediately. When father and son were left alone in the room, the Lord tried to understand whether his son understood the rumors surrounding him. Everyone around him considers him cruel, evil, and only thinking about money, and lately even crazy. It is unknown how much longer the father will have to endure this. He reminded that Logan's mother would also not like what is happening. It's strange that he remembered her at all. This never happened before. Even when Logan was kicked out of the house, maybe the father still believes in his son. Logan took a step forward and asked to be given 1 year, after which his father would realize that he was wrong about him. It was a strong request from a true man. The Lord has no right to refuse. After this conversation, Patrick was left alone in his room and thought a lot about everything that had happened. If in a year his son does not fulfill his promise, then he will have to act very decisively, because he is the Lord of the family. He looked at his ex-wife, Rain, and mentally apologized to her for losing control of this. He promised to protect his son at all costs and promised to do everything he could to make sure he grew up to be a good person. But now it seems like he should have been more careful with Logan. Meanwhile, it turned out that the youngest son of the family had finally awakened his power. Logan was very happy and was one of the first to congratulate his brother. He is only 14 years old. and he has already made such progress. Ronan said that all this happened thanks to Logan. The knights tried to prevent him from meeting his brother when he returned, and then everything happened. When he awakened his power, he managed to break through 2 knights. Of course, they're not very happy to hear all this now. They're pretending like they didn't do anything like that. The elder brother greeted the Ronin and said that when his strength stabilized, he would teach him the secrets of the divine sword. He can become much stronger than in his past life. This guy is really talented. Then Logan rested a bit and headed to the house in the south of McLean's territory. He came to personally meet with Dwayne, the family's financial manager. The deed was done. Dwayne was able to find 350 mid-ranking mercenaries. They were not very happy, because they had been living in this small house for 10 days. We need to calm them down, otherwise it will be impossible to control them. Logan decided to show his strength and turned to the bald man, who called him a madman. Logan smiled and wanted to show that he was not afraid of anyone or anything. He reminded them that mercenaries of this rank had no abilities that would allow them to look down on other people. He ordered this guy to come forward, even though he was offended by those words. If this man can hit Logan at least once, he will immediately pay him a year's salary and let him go. He swears on the honor of an aristocrat that he will do this. All other people are witnesses to his promise. This man immediately approached Logan and smiled a confident smile. He looks not only bigger but also stronger than Logan. This is probably why he is so confident in his own abilities. Now, let's see if this is really the case. He offered to give Logan the advantage, but at that moment, he realized that this guy didn't need any advantage. Everyone around was shocked by what was happening. No one expected such a powerful blow. Of course, it was a knockout. After such blows, it is impossible not to lose consciousness. The man lost several teeth and may have also forgotten his name. Logan smiled because he understood perfectly well that now the mercenaries would not judge him for his actions. Everyone was surprised that at such a young age he was already demonstrating incredible strength. Kai considered his boss unusual, but he had no idea he was so strong. It seems that there are no more people willing to test its strength. Finally, this incident has been resolved. Surely everyone is interested in understanding why he wants to spend money on mercenaries. It's a logical question. Logan confidently stated that he wanted to make them professional crossbowmen, as if that didn't sound ridiculous now. Not only the mercenaries were surprised, but also people close to Logan. The most interesting thing is that Logan wants to make them unusual crossbowmen and crossbowmen cavalrymen, although Kai considers this absurd. A crossbow is more powerful than a bow, but it takes a long time for uneducated shooters to reload. On horseback, a person will very quickly lose the ability to shoot. So the misunderstanding of this proposal is understandable. Now no one understands that the cavalry crossbowman will be a powerful force for McLean, even after the war. Let everyone consider him crazy, but over time everyone will understand that he is a true genius. Everyone around had no choice but to accept this offer, and several days passed after this conversation. Out of 350 mercenaries, only 312 passed the qualification test. Hamar has already read the information he received from the owner, which is a diagram of the crossbow that needs to be made. Logan used this weapon for several decades in a past life and was now able to draw this structure again. A high-ranking gnome shouldn't have much trouble creating this. He said he needed to place a container containing the shells in the back of the crossbow and make it autonomous. Also, this weapon should fire 3 times in a row. This idea was personally suggested by Logan. Some mechanisms did not hold up and will break, and the wooden box behind will make it uncomfortable to shoot. Logan said that he didn't know how to fix all these flaws. The dwarf had to find a solution on his own. Of course, Hamar really doesn't like this approach. He's used to doing what he's told, not working as an inventor. Logan assured that it is possible to find the right solutions to all these nuances. This will no longer be an ordinary weapon. It will be some kind of new technology that can change everything on the battlefield. This test is really getting interesting. Hamar has promised to do everything in his power to complete this task. A month later, he promised to create something extraordinary and said that Logan would be proud of him. It's always nice to deal with the real thing. It's no wonder Logan chose it. It's time to give the younger generation some exercise. Now is the perfect weather for it. Victor has started his training. He still wants to be a knight, even though it is incredibly difficult for him. Logan is not going to give him weak loads. On the contrary, this guy has to work twice as hard to reach his potential. From the moment they arrived here, Logan had only fed them and given them the opportunity to rest. Now, after sufficient rest and recovery, it's time to work hard. Logan let Victor rest a bit, at which point his sister immediately ran to his brother. This young guy, who is smaller than his peers, just to run 20 kilometers without resting, he is truly incredibly talented. What I like most about him is his determination and endurance. Logan was worried about this guy for nothing. It's obvious that he wasn't a true killer from birth. Life itself changed him so much. After a few minutes, McLean said that it was enough to rest. We had to move on to a new task. He gave the boy a wooden sword and said that he would learn the techniques of the Grand Kingdom. Every knight's apprentice possesses these skills. He is ready to set an example with his own actions in order to motivate the guy. This will be difficult to do because Victor is so tired that he just wants to pass out and fall asleep. But if that's the price of rest and food, then he's ready to work as hard as possible. Of course, he doesn't even suspect what talent is hidden in his body. Logan sees this perfectly, although he does his best not to show his emotions. Victor perfectly repeats the sword movements he saw for the first time in his life. It is unlikely that a Ronin is so talented at this age. If you develop endurance and perfect the technique of the kingdom more than 1,000 times in a row, then the victor will be able to call himself a knight. These words really affected him. He said he would do everything possible to make progress. Logan offered the boy new weapons, but Victor replied that he didn't need anything, just that everything was fine with his sister. Victor will not be able to go to war, but in the future, he will be a huge support to the McLean family. An army of mercenaries and new weapons will be a powerful force, but you shouldn't put too much faith in them either. The Hamar may not have a good crossbow, and even if he does, there's a chance the mercenaries won't learn how to use it. That's why Logan decided to come up with a backup plan and came to his father. He was confident in his idea and said he wanted to join the Knights training. The next day, his father agreed to this request and allowed him to train with real professionals. He sent him to Heinkel. This is Captain McLean of the Knights Order. Today, young Logan will be training with this order. The other knights were shocked. It seemed to them that this was all just some kind of joke. The captain didn't look very happy either. It was obvious that the conversation with the Lord had turned out to be unpleasant. He asked the Lord to change his decision, but Patrick McLean said that his son should not be treated specially. On the contrary, he should be forced to do maximum loads as if he were a real beginner. Even though he said so, Logan still stays with the Lord's son, so he needs special treatment. The guy turned to the captain and said that there was no need to worry about him. If he doesn't reach the level of the other knights during this week, he will pretend nothing happened and leave training. These words surprised the captain very much. He decided that this week the level of difficulty of the training would increase 3 times. This means not only that Logan will have a hard time, the other knights will also be begging for salvation from these hellish training sessions. The captain turned out to be very strict and was not going to give his soldiers any extra rest. He asked them to feel what horses feel when warriors in armor climb on them. These knights had never heard such a delusion in their lives, but they had to obey the order. It seemed to them that the young heir to the family would not last even 3 days. But it turned out that he was much more resilient than the others. He showed not only miracles of endurance but also speed, strength, and incredible character. It was hard for the captain to watch him take the lead. Recall that the difficulty of the training was increased so that Logan would give up. So far, this plan is failing. Of course, the guy guessed what was happening, so he felt double the pleasure and smiled. At this rate, not Logan, but other knights will abandon this program and decide to become bakers and domestic workers. The captain decided to order an immediate stop and gave everyone a 10-minute rest. He went over to Logan to make sure he was okay. The captain said he was ready to cancel the training, but the guy replied that he felt great and was ready to continue. He looks forward to continuing his training, even though the other knights curse him for it. The captain was trying to achieve a completely different result, but things don't always go according to plan. The training continued for many more hours, a day the knights would remember for the rest of their lives. Training with them is insurance in case all of Logan's plans fail. If nothing works, he will join the knights and fight on the front lines, so it's best to get close to them right now. Its powers can be developed through meditation, but it is also important to train your body. This is exactly what the training of the Order of Knights would be needed for. Logan knew it would work. His core strength is growing. He doesn't even feel tired and is ready to continue again and again. Maybe when he reaches the 2nd star level, he will become a high-ranking knight like his father. After that, he returned to the dwarf and was upset by the results of his work. All these weapons he made still didn't suit Logan. These crossbows have slightly different characteristics. Hamar was incredibly angry, he worked hard, and the result was too weak. Several weeks of work were wasted. Logan was also to blame. He expected too much from the dwarf. He probably overestimated his abilities and made a mistake by investing in a weak dwarf. Hamar promised that he would make a new weapon in a month and return with a better result. If you make him even angrier, he will probably do something truly incredible. Soon they met again so that Logan could personally look at the new crossbow. Its characteristics were much better than the previous version. This weapon can fire faster and more accurately. And it is also much more comfortable to hold with one hand, and it is easy to change the magazine. Logan was really shocked and pleased at the same time. He reloaded this crossbow in 5 seconds. A fantastic result. It's hard to believe they've come this far, even though the war is still a month away. It seemed to the dwarf that Logan was not listening to him at all, but the boy lifted him up and thanked him for his excellent work. Now it's time to ask for something more. Hamar must make 400 of these crossbows in a month. Meanwhile, Logan handed over the crossbows to other warriors so they could experience with their own hands what kind of weapon it was. Even an experienced mercenary like Kai was surprised and couldn't understand how an ordinary crossbow could be capable of such a feat. It is dual-charged and fires long distances with incredible speed and power. If you give the entire army such weapons, it's hard to even think about the consequences. The gnome really had to work very hard and other craftsmen helped him. Of course, it is impossible to predict whether they will have time to produce the necessary amount of weapons before the war. From this day forward, all mercenaries must take up crossbows and defend the mountains outside the McLean territories. It seems impossible, but Kai doesn't really want to refuse this request. He must do everything in his power to ensure that this task is completed, otherwise all the work will be in vain. Kai understands that his boss wouldn't make all these weapons just to destroy monsters, so he prepares for a global war. Logan also did not forget about his backup plan. He must improve his physical properties. This will help him become a true knight, and we can already see his incredible progress. Other knights find it hard to believe that he can be so strong. Perhaps it's all because of his genes. Most knights refuse to continue such difficult training, but Logan continued regardless. The training that was designed to make him abandon knighthood has now become commonplace within the order. They became an incentive for low-ranking knights who had previously trained too calmly. Strengthening the bonds between the knights was a nice bonus. Captain Heinkel continued to train them in the same mode because the first heir to the family did not leave the order, although the result surprised him. Even after hard training and long days, at night Logan still tried to find an opportunity to improve himself. After strenuously training his body, he can stimulate inner awareness through meditation. Repetition and coordination of this is paying off. He has already noticed changes in his body recently. If he continues to progress at this rapid rate, Superhuman, Aura Master, and Sorcerer Supreme will cease to be a threat to him. In a past life, they were stronger than him, but now that must change. His inner energy and core strength grow. That's the effect of meditation. Finally, after several hours of active training, he received the core of the second star. Now this means that he has a base to learn the next hidden sword technique. This ancient and legendary technique is called Murder by Iron Cut. Considering the power gained from the first vehicle, the upgrade should be much better. The main thing is to have time to do all this before the war. If he is truly capable of this, then even high-ranking knights will not be afraid of him at all. The days passed very quickly. The war was approaching at an incredible pace. There were many monsters on the lands near the McLean family's territory. On the orders of the second deputy of the family, the mercenaries took up crossbows and began to destroy these monsters. You could call it professional clearing of territories using the latest weapons. Kai was the general of the mercenary army, and like a true leader, he led them. The guys were very pleased. This crossbow is truly a real breakthrough in military technology. Shots from this weapon can pierce through a monster's head, something that previously seemed like fantasy. Usually the young heir to the McLean family also traveled with them. He was pleased with the results. A pack of monsters was destroyed in less than 10 seconds. This result can be safely entered into the Guinness Book of Records. It's no wonder they went hunting in such distant lands. The results get better with each new challenge. He apologized for his question, but he still wanted to understand something, because he had never heard of a mercenary army with such power before. It seems that Lucas brought them together in order to destroy absolutely all the monsters on the continent. Their conversation was very interesting, but suddenly a messenger sent by the Roar intervened. This messenger reported that yesterday a man named Viscount Tesseran officially declared war on them. The Viscount accused the McLean house of insulting his predecessor and unlawfully killing him. This news came as a real shock to the lord of the family. He did not expect war at all. This whole situation happened in the distant past, so it's strange that they decided to fight only now. Everyone was trying to understand what the lord was planning to do. People were scared because they understood what war was. The number of the knights of the Viscount is much higher than the Order of McLean. The chances of victory are almost non-existent. It was suggested to ask for support and send knights to protect the city, although of course this has its risks. The Lord ordered everyone to be silent, even though the power in the family is not as great as before. But these people constantly declare war for no reason. It becomes obvious that this was planned intentionally But now it no longer matters. Patrick McLean has ordered his men to prepare for war and draw up a plan for victory. He doesn't even want to hear any alternative options. Everyone was surprised and visibly scared, and his wife started asking about the children. With an angry face, the Lord replied that both of his sons would go to war alongside the others. Ronan has recently awakened his power, and Logan is old enough to contribute. If they can both use their power, they should support the McLean family in a difficult moment. Rick listened to all this and was scared. He understood how bad the news was. That is why he decided to immediately report to his master everything that had happened on the estate. When Logan heard the latest news, he didn't look too happy. According to his knowledge, the war was supposed to start 2 months later. Now he needs to hurry. Their rivals are ignoring customs and heading towards McLean's territory. If Logan leaves right now, he might only make it to the middle of the battle. There's no time to think. Kai, along with all the other mercenaries, said they were ready to fight right now. It seems these guys are not at all surprised by the news. They are probably just dreaming about participating in the war. They have gained incredible physical shape and received excellent weapons, so they are now confident in their own abilities. Logan realizes that they really have reason to be confident because there is no chance left for the pack of monsters. If the war really starts, all they have to do is win, and they have enough strength to do it now. The McLean house was shocked by the unexpected news of the war, but all the warriors were confident of victory. The war began earlier than Logan had planned, and the next day Tesseron troops were already on the McLean family's territory. Their numbers were much greater than expected, more than 100 knights, more than 1,000 regular soldiers. Also, don't forget about the 10,000 cavalry, so this is a real full-scale war. The Lord couldn't understand why he had to go so far. He underestimated his opponent, and now he understands it. Recently, the House of Kairos announced that it would not provide them with assistance. Marion couldn't believe that her relatives refused to help her in her difficult time. It seemed to her that it was all a mistake. But it was true. The Lord ordered all men who were ready to bear arms to be gathered and prepared to defend their land to the last drop of blood. The closest relatives, the House of Kairos, turned away from them. McLean found himself in an ambush, and now death is approaching him. They managed to gather only 53 knights, a pitiful number compared to the rival knightly order. With them will be 552 soldiers of the regular army and 4,000 ordinary men with weapons. Against them will be a much stronger and larger army, so it all looks pretty bleak. The knights began to think that the Lord's eldest son had escaped, and a Ronin intervened in the conversation and said that Logan would never do such a thing. The boy knows that his older brother expected the war to begin soon. He decided to teach him ancient sword techniques that might be useful during battle. Nevertheless, the warriors still continued to repeat that Logan had decided to escape. Ronan couldn't believe it, but his father ordered him to replace his older brother. He must remain resolute in any situation, lest anything happen. He must fight with his head held high. While the Ronin refused to believe in his brother's betrayal, the Lord led the warriors to victory in this war. They set out after him, even though they understood that this might be their last time. The Viscount only smiled. He expected an easy victory and great spoils. He also ordered the knights to attack and spare no one on the battlefield. Patrick McLean was ahead. He saw unknown warriors approaching him and thought they were his rivals. He began to attack, but an unknown warrior was able to block his blow, something that had never happened to the Lord before. It seems his opponent is indeed very powerful. This battle is getting harder and harder by the minute. Rick also participated in this battle. He trembled with fear because he understood that the forces were not at all equal. It is obvious that they will lose this battle. Their army is so weak that they even had to call in servants for help. One of the soldiers of the enemy army pushed him to the ground and prepared to send him to another world. At the last moment, the guy was very lucky because the enemy was treacherously killed. Rick escaped, but that doesn't mean he's safe now because the battle continues. He wanted to thank his savior, but within seconds, the man was also dead. This is what real war means. Everything happens incredibly fast here. The slightest loss of concentration can lead to fatal consequences. Rick decided that he needed to flee immediately and find a safe place, away from the enemy. This will not be easy to do, because he has already found himself in the heart of the confrontation. Meanwhile, Lord McLean continued to fight against powerful opponents. He didn't expect that the Tesseron army had high-ranking knights. That was another problem. Patrick said that despite his advanced age, he is still very capable, and he is not going to give up without a fight. These young men were visibly mocking him, especially the high-ranking knight who was not shy about showing his superiority. The legendary lord of the McLean family has been surrounded, even though he is on horseback, but the forces are still not equal. If he doesn't make it further, the knightly detachment will also be left behind. so we must act very quickly and decisively. Patrick McLean never shied away from battle. He laughed in the face of death and always moved forward. For him, honor was always much more precious than money. He was ready to fight for honor and die for honor. It has been this way all his life and even today. On the day of this cruel battle, he is not going to betray his principles. Sooner or later it had to happen. A cunning rival sneaked up from behind and pierced the Lord's armor. Patrick McLean screamed in pain. He had been seriously injured before, but today it was much worse. While the high-ranking knight blocked his blows, other warriors attacked from behind, an obvious ambush, but one that could not be avoided. In these moments, the Lord thought about his youngest son. He hoped that the Ronin would be able to continue the family legacy. Meanwhile, the general of the other army was pleased. He had done the right thing by not telling anyone about his high-ranking knight. Now all that remains is to defeat Patrick and capture the McLean estate, and the deed will be done. In war, one cannot make hasty conclusions. Today, Viscount Tesseran will be remembered for the rest of his life. And he was told that an unknown army was approaching them. There were about 300 soldiers and they were armed with crossbows. The Viscount began to smile and said that only hunters used crossbows. He ordered the archers to eliminate the threat. It seemed to him that everything was under control, but within a few seconds he realized that the situation was not easy. A huge number of his soldiers were killed in a minimal amount of time. The Viscount turned his head and saw unknown soldiers in front of him. This detachment was led by the eldest son of the McLean family, Logan, who came to defend his territory no matter what. When he saw the huge number of dead friends and relatives, he almost lost control of himself with rage. All he had to do was order them to constantly attack the enemies and not give them a chance to escape. The rivals did not know that the McLean family had such a professional squad of Avengers. We should have prepared better for the battle, but it's too late to regret it now. The archers gathered together and began to strike back. They quickly realized that there was one big problem, which was the distance. The arrows didn't reach the Avengers at all. So the weapon that was made by the dwarf turned out to be extremely revolutionary, and today it is felt more than ever. Logan and his warriors could remain at a safe distance and calmly shoot the enemy army. Almost the entire rear front was shot in just a few minutes. That's what innovation does on the battlefield. The Viscount could not believe that his opponent had done this with ordinary crossbows. He ordered his cavalry to move from the front line here to protect the others. Soon reinforcements arrived. These guys have better armor, so it will be harder to fight them. Logan did not lose optimism. He saw that the opponents were going to their hands, and this was a good sign. All this time, the youngest heir to the family fought fiercely despite his young age. While in a real battle, he realized that he was not a genius, but just a guy who had recently spent his strength. He remembered his father's last words, that the Ronin should replace his older brother on the battlefield. The guy looked very confident in his power, but he couldn't understand why his rivals were turning their backs on him. He decided to approach and take advantage of this opportunity, but someone was ahead of him and killed the knight much faster. He saw that it was done with ordinary arrows. Soon he raised his head and saw his older brother in front of him. So the Ronin turned out to be right. His older brother could not abandon his family and came to save her at the most difficult moment. The Tesseran army organized and lined up to attack any warriors holding crossbows. This famous defensive line construction is called the Snake Shield. Logan read about it when he was little. He ordered his assistants to aim slightly below the warriors. At first, this order seemed very strange. A little later, he explained that in fact their target was not the soldiers at all, but their horses. That's when all the mercenaries understood their captain's intentions. They really liked this idea. Logan was happy that he had arrived in time and protected his younger brother. Of course, he shouldn't forget about his father. This time he decided to save his family. So there's no point in winning the battle if his father dies. He ordered Kai to remain in charge and left the army to find Lord McLean. Kai couldn't understand Logan's actions. The victory was almost in their pocket, but this red-haired guy didn't want to take it for himself. The battle continued. Patrick McLean fought like a true hero, despite being seriously wounded. His opponents, as if under hypnosis, attacked him non-stop. Strange behavior considering they were already winning. The opponents have a clear numerical advantage. They have surrounded the Lord and are approaching victory. At that moment, they felt something very powerful approaching them. Turning their heads back, they saw the eldest heir of the McLean family. With one move, he destroyed everyone who attacked his father. It was truly fantastic. Now Patrick will have no choice but to admit that his son has truly changed for the better. He saw Logan with a detachment of mercenaries approaching from the left flank, but he was sure that it was very far from here. It is unknown how his son was able to approach and save him so quickly. And besides, his warriors destroyed almost the entire enemy army. Logan assured his father that the advantage on the battlefield was now on their side. Patrick approached him, put his hand on his eldest son's shoulder, and said he was proud of him and thanked him for saving him. It's always nice to understand that your son has made great progress and become a real man. Although this is a very sentimental moment, you can't relax, because there are a lot of enemies around. The boy asked his father to rest and promised to do all the dirty work for him. Patrick was forced to submit. His injury would not allow him to fight at 100% anyway. Logan ran forward with fire in his eyes. He had never felt so strong and confident. The enemy knight was surprised. He expected Lord McLean to attack him, not this pathetic boy. It seemed that they were approximately on the same level. But Logan is sure that this is not the case, and wants to demonstrate his progress. Each of them tried to constantly attack. In such a battle, the slightest loss of concentration could be equal to losing one's head. Logan felt that he could no longer waste time playing childish games, so he activated the steel-breaking wave skill. It was so powerful that the opponent didn't even have a chance to defend himself. Everyone around saw this incredible glow. At first, it even seemed like it was the application of magic. Thus, Logan destroyed a high-ranking knight. A few months ago, it was even hard to believe. He raised his sword and began to shout loudly that he had killed the general of the enemy army. This led to panic among the opponents. Some even began to throw down their weapons and try to escape. Thus, very quickly, McLean's army, despite all the adversity, was able to win this confrontation. Viscount Tesseron had no choice but to flee. He had been preparing for this battle for 3 years, but at the last moment, everything went wrong. Before this war, he even invited support from the aristocrats, but the second heir to the McLean family ruined everything. He arrived at his estate and ordered the gates to be opened immediately, but the guards were in no hurry to do so. They asked him to turn around, and then he saw enemy cavalry approaching him. So all this time Logan was chasing his enemy. He wasn't going to let him go. Logan acts like a true predator who has seen his prey, and now all that remains is to take the final step. The young heir to the family mounted his horse and turned to face the enemy archers. He ordered them to open the gates and let in the winner, although they found it hard to believe that the Viscount had really lost. Realizing that he couldn't wait for an answer, he demonstrated his talent for high jumping. Now, they will be forced to open the gates to him, unless of course they want to go to hell. Meanwhile, the general of the army, instead of being on the front lines and defending his territory, was trying to gather all his belongings. He was already dreaming of escaping and trying to take as much gold as possible with you. Soon he heard the door of the room open and someone enter. It was Logan's voice, so this guy found the right room in this large mansion very quickly. He did this not without the help of a servant. This woman helped him even before he started threatening her. This behavior of the servant speaks volumes about their boss's reputation. They hardly consider him a good person. Everyone around decided to sell him and free themselves from serving such a bad person. The Viscount began to beg to leave him alive and offered solid compensation. That is, he started a war without a normal reason, and now he is asking for a pardon. It even sounds pathetic. It seems he has no conscience at all, and Logan is not going to forgive him for all these actions. Tesseron reminded Logan that he must have the honor of an aristocrat and has no right to kill prisoners of war, according to convention. The guy replied that he respects the honor and traditions of his McLean house, so he is ready to save the life of the enemy. These are all beautiful words, but that's what Patrick McLean would say, but Logan is a completely different person. In the treasure chest, the boy noticed a very interesting sword decorated with various diamonds. He asked the Tesseron to take this sword with him and plunged it straight into his heart. Maybe his father would have saved this man's life, but Logan is not exactly like his father. The enemy's miserable life must end at this point, for he does not deserve a second chance. Thus, Viscount Tesseron died on his estate, after being sold by his own people. Logan is incredibly happy that they have finally survived this disaster for which they have been actively preparing for the past few months. He began to scream and call for the servants and said that Viscount Haemon Tesseron had died by suicide. A little later, Kai entered the room and said that Logan should go down and see what was happening in the underground part of the estate. After these events, several days passed, and Lord McLean arrived at the Tesseron estate, having been summoned by his eldest son. He said that the Viscount committed suicide because he was in despair after what happened. The father approached his son and said that he knew that it was actually Logan who killed him. The guy admitted that this was true. He believes that they should take this estate under their control. He doesn't want the Tesseron family to remain alive and create new problems in the future. Patrick acknowledged that his son is an adult and has reasons for doing so. No matter what anyone says, Logan played a decisive role in this battle and his father is grateful to him for it. Now he is ready to make him the official heir to the McLean house. Although it was a great honor, strangely enough, Logan smiled, apologized, and declined the offer. His father definitely did not expect such a plot twist. Previously, it was believed that becoming an heir was the highest reward for any achievements. Logan explained that the McLeans were a family of knights, so a Ronin was better suited for the position. He began using his powers at the age of 14, 5 years earlier than Logan. It is impossible to predict what achievements he will conquer when he reaches older age. The father admitted that his son was indeed right, but said that the heir to the family does not become for military achievements. Logan is sure that if the Ronin, as in his past life, receives the title of Young Force User, then there will be no more problems in the family. The most important thing is that becoming the heir will not give Logan any benefits, so it makes no sense. As the older brother, he is ready to give the younger one a chance in hopes that his father will wait until the Ronin reaches the right age. Patrick did not expect his son to be so respectful of the younger generation. He accepts his choice. The father wants to reward his son for his successes on the battlefield, so Logan asked him to choose a gift for himself. Soon, the knights of the McLean family returned to their territory. They were greeted as true heroes. Everyone was surprised that they returned from the war only a week after it began, although some had already learned that the war had actually only lasted a day. Also, ordinary people learned that the war was won with the help of the eldest heir of the family. His mercenaries completely turned the tide of the fight with the help of advanced weapons and good strategy. Young people recognize that geniuses are different from ordinary people. They look at Logan as Superman. With the help of his hearing, he hears all these conversations and he feels a little uncomfortable because he is not used to this. He decided to smile his trademark smile. Probably it was time to tell him that he wasn't very good at it. When people see his smile, they immediately realize that their nightmares aren't actually that scary at all. After that, it's time to get some well-deserved rest. The victory celebration ceremony will continue until the morning. Everyone around is celebrating, but Logan remains calm. While walking near the estate, he saw his younger brother and his mother walking towards him. Marion was very angry. She had already heard that Logan refused to become the heir and was sure that this was his evil plan. This woman thinks he's going to deceive everyone around him, but she's sure she won't let herself be deceived. Ronan began to apologize to his brother for his mother's behavior, but Logan assured him that he was not offended. Marion always treated him badly, but after betraying the Kiros family, she lost her power and authority. There's no point in being afraid of her anymore, but if you apologize right now, she might accept it, and that could be helpful. Logan admitted that his actions in recent months were not trustworthy. He regrets that he was driven by envy and feelings of inferiority. Then he looked at his younger brother and said that he would also like to apologize to him. He had already apologized to him after his return, but he never said what exactly he was apologizing for. He apologizes for hating the Ronin all these years and constantly insulting him. All this time he was trying to cover up his own incompetence with hatred. Now is the time to officially apologize and admit that he behaved incorrectly. Logan understands that good deeds cannot cover up all the bad things that have happened before. His brother replied that he accepted this apology. He always believed that as long as he was kind to Logan, sooner or later his brother would become kind. It's now clear that this conversation should have happened much earlier, but better late than never. Logan wholeheartedly watches over his younger brother and helps him, hoping that the Ronin will become the heir to the family. It is obvious that he cannot ask to believe him immediately, but asks the Marion to observe his actions and become more lenient towards him. To start this conversation, it is enough for his loved ones to recognize that he has really changed. The celebration ended, and a few days later, after resting, Logan went to the dwarf. They did a great job, but now it's time to get back to the hard work. From now on, they will be developing the mine. The dwarf must like this idea. Let's go back a little and remember the conversation between father and son about the reward that Logan wants to receive. He asked to receive the right to develop a mine on a mountain located near the borders of Tesron. Although it is a large mountain, the father does not understand why his son chose this particular place. Few people know, but in the future, a lot of gold may be discovered there. The reason why House Tesron started the feudal war became clear only a year after it ended. Tesron mined gold on the mountain in the captured territory of the McLeans, and through this became much more influential than any duke. After that, Ronan McLean destroyed his family out of revenge, just like it was in a past life. Kai brought his boss to the underground prison of Tesron Castle, where they found unusual people, so they decided to show it to Logan. They shouted that they had done nothing wrong, they had only found gold from the mine, even though that was exactly what they had been hired for. This Viscount had truly crossed all limits, so he absolutely deserved to die. It's hard to believe that he imprisoned 5 valuable mining experts. A real fool. On the other hand, now Logan has found a real treasure that will help him become great. They won the war against the Tesron army, but it was like overcoming a small wave. If the invasion of the empire, which will lead to the destruction of the state, is the last obstacle, then the event that will occur in a year will be the beginning of the destruction of the nation. This refers to the death of the current King Samuel von Grandius. His death will lead to a conflict between three princes for the crown, after which a civil war will weaken the kingdom's fighting power. The empire will begin to attack at a time when the kingdom's power has not yet been restored, which will lead to disaster. At home, Clay is a member of the faction. He maintains neutrality, and this allows him to remain a calm observer. Logan cannot miss this chance. He wants to take advantage of the chaos to reclaim the lands that belonged to them before. They will once again become rulers of the southwestern territories, although much work remains to be done. It's time to introduce the experts to the dwarf. Now they will have to work together. For the sake of the future, we need to quickly increase our combat power, so there is a lot of work to do. This mountain will become a real gold mine for sponsoring any ideas. There is gold in the middle of this mountain, so Logan wants all these people to do everything they can to get this gold and put it in his pocket. Of course, this work will cost money, and to earn money, you have to spend some of it. Hamar wasn't very happy. He didn't like the whole idea. Even though the room was always looking for treasures in the mines, Tesron promised to pay the experts a lot, which is why they immediately agreed to his terms, and they want everything to be the same here. To begin with, everyone wants to make sure that there really is gold in this mountain. Logan is certain that he personally saw it with his own eyes. Everyone was very surprised, but few would dare to say that the heir to the McLean family was a liar. He said that this task was very confidential, so only 6 of them would work. Of course, this sounds like a real absurdity, because 6 people will not be able to work normally in a mine. The expert looked at the dwarf and hoped that he would support his protest. Hamar is in no hurry to go against his boss. He said that they better prepare for death right away. Logan was pleased that his dwarf was already similar to his slave. During this time, they really began to understand each other better. First, you need to get to the gold to understand the scale of the work. And of course, you have to pay for it. In addition, we must not forget that the safe development of the mine will take a lot of time, with 6 months of preparation alone. Logan knew that it would take a lot of time and money to implement this idea. But this gold made the Viscount more powerful than the Dukes, so it changes everything. Logan must get the gold at any cost. Now it would be ideal to sell the monster meat and invest the money in the mine. The effectiveness of the meat will only be known in 6 months, although if the toxin is removed right now, the meat will become a bestseller. This is exactly the decision the young warrior made. In any case, he has no other choice but to try. A week has passed since this conversation, and we move on to the McLean house in the south. Rick made a medicine at his master's command, made from nightgrass, grass from the territory, and grass of the medicine. These medicines can help make monster meat safe to eat. There is of course a problem. This meat has already started to stink very badly. Rick almost passed out from the smell. Logan is much easier because he is awake and can control his body. Soon they began sprinkling the meat with this medicine. The black spots are extremely poisonous, so you have to pay special attention to them. After that, you need to work a little with the meat and make minced meat out of it and create small balls. This is the product they will sell. Rick will create everything, so he must remember the entire process. The guy wasn't very happy with this job because he didn't like the smell, but as soon as Logan said it would be a good deal, Rick changed his mind. A little later, it was time to try these medicines. They should improve men's health. Logan began to explain in fairly simple language and used the example of rabbits. If you let these animals try this medicine, the results will not be long in coming. It was a little embarrassing to talk about it, but still, these medicines are really very important. Logan mentioned that there was one person who needed to test this meat on. He meant Dwayne. Soon they met. Logan approached imperceptibly and said that he had been waiting for their meeting for a long time. Because of this, the Secretary of the Treasury, McLean, was incredibly scared, and he had to be more careful when greeting him. Logan assured him that he just wanted to massage his shoulder. He had been very tired lately, due to the matters that needed to be sorted out after the war. The family's affairs have deteriorated due to Dwayne spending a lot of money on military affairs. The knights and servants are unaware of this and are asking for their payment, so the administration is currently going through hard times. As soon as this conversation began, Dwayne realized that he had to run away immediately and said that he had important things to do. Logan stopped him and suggested that he take a magic pill that would help relieve tension and improve his health. At first, Dwayne was skeptical about this offer, but decided to give it a try. Soon he was running down the hallway like a madman, constantly screaming. Dwayne ran up to Logan and started asking him the price of these magic pills. Such a reaction can only mean one thing. its success, and monster meat pills really work. After the first successful attempt, the men bowed their heads to Logan and the experiments continued. Rumors have reached Logan that the General of the Order of Knights has been having problems with his wife lately. He decided to give him a pill with monster meat and see what the result would be for this man. In such cases, the result is not long in coming. The effect is visible almost immediately. As soon as Heinkel tasted this magic pill, he immediately went to his wife. Logan was incredibly pleased that he was simultaneously testing the effects of the pills and helping his friends. Now it's time to talk to the father, because he is the third subject for the experiment. Everything went according to plan. Perhaps in the near future, Logan and Ronan will have another brother. Rick also hopes that he will get these magic pills. He has been dreaming of something like this for a long time. Logan didn't pay much attention to him and said that Rick didn't have a wife and that he wanted to try the pill. If these drugs work, then demand for them will immediately appear, and they can be sold for a lot of money. He offered to sell the pill for 100 gold coins, but Philippe Claude thought the price was too high. Logan is confident in his product. In his past life, he was bought so often that the price went up even more. If you sell it in limited quantities, you can earn much more. The main thing is to be confident in the result. If the result is excellent, all it takes is for someone famous to try this pill and express their opinion. This must be someone who needs these medicines. For example, an aristocrat who is considered quite famous. Even if it's a secret, the rumors will still spread and everyone else will start buying these pills for big money. Philip suggested going to some organized banquet in the capital, where it's very easy to find friends and connections. He said that we need to spend a lot of money on advertising because you can't sell goods at a banquet. It seems that Logan wants to do just that, although there are risks that his house will no longer be respected because this is not accepted in the highest community. If this happens, it won't be Logan who will sell it. First, you need to talk to an informant in the capital. Soon the heir to the McLean family will arrive at the Grand and will tell you all the details during a personal meeting. A week passed after this conversation, and they finally met in the capital of the Grandia Kingdom, Grand City. Philip couldn't understand how Logan got permission to transport goods. It turned out that there was no permit. All of this could be considered smuggling. His father helped him in this matter, and he probably began to treat him much better after his successes in the war. Philip believes that such an influential person cannot travel without security because it is dangerous. When there are a lot of guards nearby, it's hard to choose a route, especially since they have their own jobs. Meanwhile, Rick received a very important assignment from his boss. As in his past life, he does everything for Logan. It was soon decided, as a token of gratitude to Rick for what he was doing for the McLean family, to name the medicine in his honor, Emporic. Although Logan thought it was a great name, the Golden Beetle had a completely different opinion about it. After a long journey, Philip suggested that the boss take a break, but Logan believes that he cannot rest on his laurels. He must continue to work. Philip said that he had met with an informant from the capital, so he was not sure that it would be right to pay him for each document. Logan assured that although he is an informant and receives a lot of money, his work is really of high quality. To start, they need the names of aristocrats who have been married for the past 10 years but have no children. They also need the names of aristocrats who have remarried and do not have mistresses. Of course, we shouldn't forget the names of aristocrats who eat food that increases stamina. After a little rest, it would be ideal to come to the banquet and meet all these aristocrats. They are all very rich and influential people who love balls and relaxing in the company of similar people. Among them is Earl Davis, a respectable middle-aged man with problems with being overweight. Logan approached him and greeted him. He gave his name and told what territory he was from. They are cautious about new guests here. The Count immediately greeted Logan, although he looked a little worried. He looked at this guy and thought he was dressed like a clown. Such clothes were not at all fashionable in the capital. He has no time for idle talk. His only goal is Count Fallon Davis, an important figure in the preservation of the Grandia Kingdom. In addition, this man got married 20 years ago and still has no children. In a past life, this man became very famous. To be more precise, he became infamous because he committed suicide because of his wife. This happened after an incident between them. His wife insulted him at a banquet. She said that he couldn't do anything in bed and that she hadn't considered him a real man for a long time. His reputation and the opinions of others were very important to him, so he couldn't stand it and committed suicide. This man fits all 3 points that were mentioned by the informant. He is the ideal first-time buyer of the import. Logan said that he came to the capital for business and decided to personally meet the local authorities. Everyone around was making fun of the heir to the McLean family. He really looks pretty strange, but he doesn't care. The guy assured that there was nothing like his product. which is why he came to make the capital's aristocrats happy. He explained that these medicines would be made for men and they would enhance male abilities. The Count immediately started screaming like a mad pig. He couldn't believe that the son of an aristocrat was selling such things. An ordinary provincial has no right to speak in such a respectable place. Now he will be despised. Logan did not give up and said that as an introduction he brought one pill with him and wanted to give it to the Count. A little later, he will sell this product for a lot of money, but for now, it is just a one-time gift. The Count looked somewhat incredulous, but Logan assured him that these medicines had no side effects. He swore on the honor of an aristocrat. After this conversation, a few days passed, and the Count's servant came to Logan to buy some more pills. So this plan worked perfectly. The result was not long in coming. Thus, they immediately began making money selling magic medicines for men. Philip suggested expanding the store so that people could come in and look at the assortment in person. Logan agreed and said that now it was time to go to the banquet. Now he goes there every day, sometimes twice a day. He understands that one client is not enough for him, so he needs to expand his client base. You need to advertise the product to the maximum number of people, and then the result will be better. A week later, the Count's servant came again to buy these pills. This man was surprised because no food had ever affected his Count in this way before. But he was much more surprised when he saw a huge line at the store with these pills. All these people were acquaintances of his, respectable men and employees of various aristocrats. Soon Philip came out to them and announced in a loud voice that they had sold all the pills for today. The reaction was the same for all the men. All were upset and disappointed. Philip explained that this medicine has become very popular, but there is a shortage of supplies, so there is a limit of 50 boxes per day. They begged to sell them at least something because if they returned empty-handed, their owners would be very angry. Only Logan imposed restrictions on the sale of pills. The price immediately increased. Other people who see the queue are also interested. So far, everything is going according to plan, and every day people are lining up outside the store from the very morning. Every day for a month, the sales plan is successfully implemented, almost immediately after the store opens. They are now earning more than 4.5 million coins per month. No one could have expected that there would be so many incapacitated men in the capital. Now the price of medicine is 3 times higher, and still people are willing to pay. Soon Logan will begin to worry about the future of this kingdom, but for now he can joke and enjoy life. He thanked his assistant and said that starting next month, Philip would receive a percentage of the profits. They had no idea that all this time a man in a black hood had been secretly watching their house. A little later, Logan decided to talk to the dwarf and find out about the pace of the mine's development. He was shocked to hear about 10 tons of gold every year. Many heard this conversation. Judging by the words of the miners, there is a high chance that the gold is located in deeper layers of the earth. In any case, this is a huge profit that is impossible to even spend in your lifetime. It feels like Logan has won the jackpot. Also, don't forget that in order to get this gold out of the mine, you have to spend a lot. Logan assured him that he would find all the money in time, although the dwarf was not very happy, as he had hoped for an extra vacation. The initial investment costs for the development of the mine will be approximately 5 million. If drug sales continue at the same pace, this money can be raised in almost a month. There are still plenty of monster meat pills left, but we still need to take them home and send an even larger batch here to start work in the mine. Logan looked around and felt like someone was inside his house. He thought they might be scammers or criminals who had come to steal the medicine. He opened the door and saw no one in front of him. They must have already left. The problem is that there is only one exit from the house, so these criminals must be somewhere nearby. The guy took out his sword and started waving it around, probably to help scare off his opponents. He didn't see anyone around, although he very clearly felt the presence of another person. A little later, he felt that he was not mistaken after all. This unknown criminal was tearing off the roof of the building. So they met. Now all these secrets must be revealed. At least that's what it seemed at first glance, because in a second the man disappeared from sight. There was not even a trace of his presence left, although he had just stood opposite Logan. There was no way out. We had to go home and rest because we had a lot of work to do tomorrow too. Logan told Philip that a man who could use auras had entered their house, although this was just a theory. Badly felt that this man had a very high rank. It was obviously different from his own strength. It's strange that an aura user can be a criminal, because such people can become aristocrats. There's no point in them robbing houses. A little later, Logan saw that 2 monster meat pills had disappeared from the house. Everything else was in place. So there are also incapacitated men among aura users, and that's very interesting. Philip began to remember that there had to be a man on the list who fit this entire description. He is an aura user, has no children, and lives in the capital. He could be seen in the city center. He is quite tall, has long hair and a lush beard. His wife always notices that he pays attention to the children, but this man pretends like nothing is happening. This upsets this woman. She understands that they cannot have children, although they both really want it. They are happy to have met each other, even despite all these troubles. He feels that his wife is always on his side and ready to support him no matter what, but it still breaks his heart. The best swordsman in the kingdom, Felix Esperanza, has sadness and regret in his heart. It all started with a simple injury in his youth, when he was fighting for his country, and he suffered an injury below the belt. As a young man, this didn't really bother him, because he was doing his knightly duty. Many years passed and he realized that there was no point in the title of Duke and the glory of the strongest knight in the world without a child who would become the heir to it. His wife understands how difficult it is for him to live with this, although she loves him despite all these problems. She always wanted to stay by his side and be a support for him in difficult moments of life. Felix couldn't believe that he couldn't repay her for the boundless love he received from her. The family gathering will start soon, but Felix is in no hurry. This makes no sense because at these meetings he is only being pressured because of the need to establish an heir. His assistant said that very effective drugs that can help have recently appeared in the capital. He's not sure Felix will believe this, but there are a lot of reviews about the effectiveness of this medicine. The assistant didn't know that Felix had already tasted the medicine after stealing it. He never expected that he would decide to rob stores. It is a great shame for him and his whole family. Unfortunately, he didn't feel any effect. He's probably the only one who wasn't helped by these medications. He said he wasn't going to believe the rumors about all these medicines because even the aura didn't help him cure this problem. Now Felix Esperanza is really ready to give up and abandon all attempts to cure his problem. Soon, a man with red hair came to the gate of his estate. He was not allowed inside, but he had no intention of returning home. Logan is sure that as soon as Felix hears his name, he will immediately want to meet him. Before that, Logan told Philip about his plans. He said that he personally wanted to meet with the Duke. It's a strange idea, going to the most powerful Duke in the kingdom and telling him what you know about his weaknesses. Philip warned that this could lead to trouble, so it was better to pretend nothing had happened. On the one hand, Philip is indeed right. If that person that night was really the Duke, then we cannot miss this chance. That's why Logan took a risk and decided to go to the Duke's house. He was lucky because Felix allowed him to enter his estate and meet with him. The chance to create a strong bond with one of the most powerful people in the kingdom must be seized. Logan was surprised. This man is almost 70 years old, but he looks much younger than his age. It turns out that Felix is familiar with the McLean house. He is surprised that Logan traveled such a long way to get here. The guy said that he opened his own business in the capital and decided to bring the goods as a gift. These are magical medicines for men's health. Their effectiveness has been proven by many aristocrats. Felix pretended like he was hearing about this medicine for the first time, with absolutely no reaction. Now Logan isn't even sure that Felix was the thief. Maybe he should come in from the other side. He explained that ordinary pills might not work for such a strong person, so Logan brought something special. Soon he finally saw a reaction. The boy guessed that the regular pills had no effect on the phoenix. The poison in the monster meat used in the current version of the medicine has been neutralized to treat dysfunction. Of course, this ordinary poison won't work on a superhuman. So by buying it, you can create a powerful concentrate. The version was called limited because it concentrated the effect much stronger than usual. If an ordinary person without a core takes this pill, they will die immediately, but an aura user will feel the result on the contrary. If Felix likes this medicine, he can get more, and of course Logan is willing to keep it confidential. One day had passed since that conversation, but in this case, that was enough. Felix came to Logan with a smile on his face and said he was ready to do everything in his power. This means that the medication really worked perfectly, and it's a small victory, but a victory. An aura master is a martial arts master and a power master who uses life energy. We can say with complete confidence that Felix appreciated the result, the medicine worked, and over time, he will be completely cured of his problem. His heartache is over. The medication has a cumulative effect, so it will only get better over time. He found it hard to believe that this young, red-haired guy had brought him a gift and not even mentioned the crime Felix had committed. That day he saw before him the abilities of a swordsman. For such a young guy, it was really quite a good technique. Felix is sure that Logan is the owner of this incredible medicine. Felix said he was ready to pay in full for this result, so there was a chance to ask him for a book on swordsmanship. Of course, after such a result, it would not be a problem, so the Duke very quickly agreed. He took out a book from the library and said that after the described workouts, his whole body would ache. But the result would be very serious. Logan also asked to write him a letter confirming that Felix personally gave him this book. Now he got everything he wanted. He could have gotten much more from the Duke, but his goal was completely different. It turned out that Felix was ready to personally teach his savior sword techniques. This is shocking news. Logan certainly didn't expect to be taught by the greatest swordsman in the kingdom, a real jackpot that he had no right to refuse, so training soon began. The Duke immediately made it clear that he was not going to give in to his opponent, and immediately activated his enormous aura. This is what a true swordmaster means. Even without a single blow, he can make his opponent suffer. Logan has also learned something during all these months of training. He is not going to give up without a fight. He will use internal strength to enhance his sensory perception, so he has more than just muscle strength. After that, he will analyze what his body is capable of, because every time he tries to do something, the Duke's power stimulates the activation of the inner core. Felix immediately felt that he had a really talented guy in front of him. He just needed to add a little experience and technique. Approximately the same experience as the Duke, although to get something like that, you have to go through a huge number of battles. With the first attack, the Duke was able to knock his young rival off his feet. This should be enough for the first workout. Otherwise, you will have to consult a doctor. The Duke is not going to teach the boy anything he cannot master. Logan had just seen the full version of the aura's power, and at the end, Felix deliberately demonstrated everything he was capable of. Nevertheless, he is surprised that the guy is alive. Some people are really lucky with natural talent. Now he will personally monitor the progress of this young warrior. It's time to take a break. You can't train all the time. Thanks to the potion that Logan received from the Duke, his recovery was much faster. He said goodbye to the servant Felix and returned to his usual business. He pretended that everything was fine with him, but as soon as he found himself in a deserted place, it immediately became clear that he was still unwell. He couldn't use such an expensive potion to treat ordinary wounds. He gained much more than he lost, so in any case, he is happy with the result. They can really become friends. The main thing is to develop this connection and not forget about communication. Suddenly, Philip quietly approached Logan and scared him. He had hoped that the meeting with the Duke had gone well, but judging by the blood on his lips, things hadn't exactly gone according to plan. A week passed after these events. The medicine was selling well, and almost 4 million gold coins were earned. If sales continue at the same pace, they will truly become incredibly rich. These two love money, and money loves them, so it's the perfect balance. This month, Philip should receive a sales bonus, but he doesn't think about it. On the contrary, he is busy with work. The guy managed to establish the process of purchasing monster meat and offered the boss to buy a house in the capital. Considering the cost of living, this is a really useful idea, but Logan will not be in the capital for long. Then you'll have to leave here, even if you don't feel like it. Now Philip must calm the clients and assure them that new medicine will arrive soon, and Logan will return home. In addition, he ordered his assistant to send money to the Tesseron and McLean territories. He is going to feed all the residents of those regions for the coming year. In fact, he doesn't really appreciate all these people, he just does it because there is a need. In about a year, the McLean family's food supply problems will end. Even despite the new territories, they will still be in the red due to poor land. So people's labor plays an important role in this regard. Logan can't let them starve, so he has to spend the extra money on them. After that, the red-haired guy went on an important business. He took the list and asked to find the people he needed. He doesn't know where they live and wants these people to be found by name, for which he is willing to pay handsomely. The guy expected that finding them would be difficult, but there was no other option. He had to gather all the independent superhumans at any cost. Those who reached this level in a past life and did not join any organization. Each of them will have a major impact on the war against the Empire, so this is an important strategic mission. Rumors that Logan was looking for superhumans began to spread very quickly throughout the kingdom. Some people don't really like what Logan is doing, and this can lead to serious problems. Our main character, today he visited a new territory on important business. He was greeted by a young guy in cheap clothes. He was surprised to see such a visitor. At first it seemed like he was an aristocrat, but his clothes were too simple. He had come to find some magic scrolls. Logan immediately took out his pocket and showed his user certificate, which he had obtained at Cooper's bank. When this guy saw the amount on Logan's balance sheet, he couldn't believe his eyes. He had never seen anyone earn so much before, so he immediately said he was taking Logan upstairs. Destruction magic is a ranged earth spell for the fourth circle. Depending on the potential of the sorcerer, this magic can even destroy rock. Due to disadvantages such as the time it takes to activate and the signs of use, it is rarely used in battle. On the other hand, it is ideal for construction, so it can be used to speed up the development of a mine. He came to buy 50 scrolls of destruction from Radius Grade, the head of the magical tower of the earth. This man has never seen anyone come with such a large order. They probably don't make much money in this place. The weakness of a trading partner can be an advantage for Logan, and this should be taken advantage of. In peaceful times, earth magic is used only for farming and planting crops with trees. That's why it's strange that an aristocrat would spend a lot of money on all this nonsense. In any case, the radio operator is very happy that this fool came to him and is ready to pay a lot of money for his goods. There is one problem. To create a scroll of the fourth circle, you need at least a sorcerer with the fifth circle. There are no such specialists in this building right now, but Logan still doesn't understand what the problem is. He realized that he was trying to squeeze even more money out of him, so he stood up and said goodbye to the sorcerer. He said he wanted to buy 150 copies every month, and those words changed the situation. This means that in 6 months he will buy a huge number of magic scrolls. That is, he will pay a lot of money. The old man immediately began to beg Logan to stay and said that they would be able to satisfy such volumes of goods. In his mind, he was already calculating his potential earnings and imagining buying himself a new Lamborghini Huracan. He immediately said that he would find the right sorcerers who could help in this difficult matter. Soon these wizards appeared to greet Logan. He gave his name and declared that now they would listen to him and follow his orders, something akin to slavery. Logan was unhappy because these people looked like they were about to starve to death. But the radio operator assured him that everything was under control. They were real professionals. In fact, they turned out to be reliable. Logan immediately felt their inner strength and energy, and they are young and talented. It's strange that they were allowed to go to the countryside. Maybe this whole thing needs to be checked out. Logan agreed to a price reduction and a handshake with his business partner. Now this old man will receive more than 1,000,000 coins every month, a good pension. He immediately took the contract out of his pocket and said that they had to sign it right away. Logan was in no hurry with the contract. It seems like they want to cheat him. At that moment, a huge man with a beard ran into the room. His name was Clayton. Clayton is an unusual country farmer, a fifth circle wizard, and he doesn't like having his students taken away from him again. Radios explained that this was necessary for an important cause. Talented followers were always needed for the work. They need practice to make significant progress. He probably forgets that they are still children. Logan couldn't understand what was happening. He listened to this conflict and didn't intervene. A little later, he realized that Clayton had received the fifth circle at a very early age and had become an elder. The tower boss is probably worried about this, but he has no way to conflict with the elder, so there are problems with the followers. The internal conflict in the wizard's tower can play to Logan's advantage. He has a very lucrative contract. If Clayton is not going to listen to the orders of the tower head, he can gather his followers and leave. Such words will not please anyone, especially an experienced sorcerer who can become angry in a second. A potential super battle of wizards awaits us. All that's left to do is grab some popcorn and get ready for something interesting. The students started to panic and scream. They wanted to stop the two men. It's unlikely they'll succeed. Only Logan can stop this conflict. Stopping, they saw that he was doing something on the table. At first, it seemed that he was drawing. A little later, everything became clear. Logan signed the contract, so now there is no point in any conflict. Once the contract was signed, all 10 of these young wizards were to go with him. These two men, who wanted to fight each other so much, may continue their conflict and even kill each other. The contract will remain valid even if the towers change hands. Their behavior has shown them a bad side, but even that is not enough to stop them. Clayton said he was not going to stay here and would leave with his followers. This immediately caused Logan and Radius to panic, and they asked Clayton to think about the tower's reputation. Clayton replied that he was not going to ask for money for his work. He was just going to help his students. They were touched by their teacher's behavior. It was really nice. So, the next day, this whole big gang set off on a long journey. The contract turned out to be an unexpected stroke of luck, because hiring a fifth circle sorcerer would have been very expensive under other circumstances, but now, Logan got it for free. It was at this moment, when Logan was thinking about his future plans, that Rena Wolves approached him. They haven't seen each other for a long time, but she still knows that Logan has opened his own business. It seems that the McLean family is in trouble. The guy replied that he was a very ambitious person and always wanted more, although in reality he wanted her to get rid of him. The girl still wanted to remind him that it was she who gave his family a large sum of money, enough for the annual budget. This girl is really very unpleasant. It is better to avoid meeting her as much as possible. Logan tried to escape, but she started talking about the feud war and said she had an interesting offer. Everyone around knows that Logan and his mercenaries used a special weapon. Rena wants to buy it for her family. The McLean family heir replied that his weapon was nothing special at all, and unfortunately he had to decline the offer. After that, he turned around and immediately started running away because he could no longer continue the conversation with this woman. Surprisingly, even after he became famous after selling medicines, none of the aristocrats were interested in the feudal war. But Rena and her whole family are showing interest. It's already making me tense. The crossbows are designed in a fairly simple way, so he hopes he can use them a few more times. He soon returned to the sorcerer Clayton and his young disciples. Very quickly, all the final preparations were made, and they set off on their long journey. In order to move all the things and people, we had to rent 3 large carriages. Clayton was unhappy with this decision and said it was a waste of money. For the first time in his life, Logan has met such a proud wizard, and it will not be easy to become friends with him. It is especially important to consider that this sorcerer decided to travel with him for free. Their journey is quite long, so they had to take a night break so that the horses could rest. Logan tried not to waste any time and immediately began meditating to improve his internal energy. At that moment, unknown people attacked him. They threw a knife at his head, but he managed to dodge, even with his eyes closed. This surprised these people. They had already heard various stories about Logan in the capital. They knew that he made a lot of money selling medicines. The guy replied that he wanted to rest a little and meditate, and he doesn't like being disturbed. That's why he took out his great sword and said that he would now show his technique in a real battle. One of these night thieves did not believe in his strength. He had to demonstrate everything in practice. These actions of the boy angered the other thieves, so a battle immediately began. During all these months, Logan never stopped his training and constantly improved his skills. That is why he has reached a high level of martial arts proficiency and now rarely has problems in regular fights. His aura has also become incredibly strong. Now he can immobilize an opponent with just a glance. It is necessary to recall the training with the Grand Duke. Logan learned a lot from him. Now his sword technique deserves special attention and can be compared to that of knights. The concentration and compression of force through a new source generates an aura. He was practicing this technique with Felix, and it seemed like it was too early to use it. But it turned out to work great. Using the power contained within the sword to forcibly overpower the enemy is characteristic of the pressure sword. This technique is really high quality enough to be used in a real battle. Although it is considered cruel, sometimes cruelty is the only way out. Thus, within a few minutes, all the criminals who came to take Logan's money were defeated. It seemed like it was time to relax. But at that moment, it turned out that Clayton was standing next to the guy and he looked quite tense. Maybe he thinks the guy's attitude towards criminals is too cruel. If Clayton refuses to cooperate, Logan could be in serious trouble. The sorcerer noted that the heir to the McLean family had truly outstanding abilities. He knows little about force users, but what he has seen is enough to understand how powerful they are. So, it seems like these two have finally found common ground. Logan deliberately went away from the camp so that no one would see his training. But Clayton found him anyway. This sorcerer's students have a hard time. They didn't get the best teacher, but while they're all together, it would be great to get to study. The sorcerer wants them to have the opportunity to take short breaks during work for additional training. Instead, he is ready to work even more energetically. It seems that these are not bad conditions. While talking to the sorcerer, Logan noticed an incredibly strong aura from the earth and began to search for its source. Surely this sorcerer really taught the children various tricks at such an early age. Their nightly conversation was over and they went to rest. From the very morning, this team continued its journey to the McLean estate, and soon they reached their destination. Logan immediately decided to meet with his father and tell him about his adventures in the capital. His journey benefited him and he gained invaluable experience. Logan also said that the business was going quite well and they would soon start making a lot of money, although his father had not heard any talk about any business. He thought his son was doing completely different things in the capital, but now he realized that he was selling medicine for men. At this moment, the Patrick remembered his promise not to interfere in his son's affairs, but asked him to take care of his family's reputation. In any case, his father took the news much better than Logan expected. He also said that he met the Duke and became friends with him. It seems that his father knows who Felix Esperanza is. Logan, with a smile on his face, told him that they had trained together, and also that he had sold him these special medicines. The father's reaction was as expected. He believes that all this could destroy the reputation of the McLean family. Then the guy said that Felix had given him a mid-level hidden sword technique, and that changed the direction of the conversation. Of course, this is a lie. Logan wrote this book himself while he was at the Duke's estate, but the technique is real. An imperial merchant discovered it in some ruins, and it described mid-level sword techniques. At first, the merchant rewrote the book and sold a few copies, but their contents leaked to the masses, and this information began to circulate freely among people. Soon the technique became a public achievement, and all the knights of the continent could learn about it. But all this was to happen only in 10 years. If their knights start learning the technique right now, their level will increase significantly, and their opponents will have no chance. The father was really surprised and even touched. He had already forgotten about his bad mood. Patrick began to be proud of his son, and said that the kings who rode were really obliged to learn this technique. After that, he told his son that he had to learn this technique himself, and Logan could rest for now. He left him in the office and asked him to help Dwayne with family decisions. Patrick would return when he too became a swordsman. Now, with the seal of the McLean house in his hands, while his father is gone, Logan will be the leader of the family. At that moment, Dwayne entered the room and started shouting and demanding money for the family again. The amount they had was not enough for enough food, and also due to the war, they lost people and some important workers. That is why we need to plug the hole in the budget again, otherwise the family will start to starve. In response, Logan just smiled and said that he had already spent all the money. Of course it's strange. He said he earned several million. Did he really manage to spend all this money in such a short period of time? The younger generation doesn't know how to count. The guy explained that he spent the money on sorcerers and various important things for the family. He also said that money for food would come into the family's account every month, so there was no need to worry about that. This should be enough to feed everyone in McLean territory. And with all the other money, they will build a dam, and Logan is already proud of his decision. 2 weeks have passed. Let's move on to the Tesseron estate. The people are not happy because the aristocrats are using them as tools of labor. It's about the same mood at the McLean estate. It's farming season, but people have to work twice as hard, so no one is happy. They are already thinking about rebellion and war with the aristocrats because they have no other choice. If they do not fight for their rights and defend their honor, they will die like ordinary slaves. All those dissatisfied and ready to revolt gathered together to express their protest. Of course, there aren't enough of them to win, but they still believe in their success. As soon as the gates opened, armed knights immediately set out to meet them. In fact, this is not a battle at all because the knights are going to give something to the common people. By order of the young heir to the family, all those who participate in the hard work will receive a month's supply of grain for their entire family. The knights are already ready to distribute these gifts, and this immediately changed the mood of the people. They were happy and began to pray for Logan's health. Now they had regained their trust in the McLean family. Thus, very quickly, the rebellion was stopped and the people's trust in Logan returned. Aristocrats consider their people their property, but among them there are people with feelings who do their duty and protect their people. Logan was a mercenary in a past life, and because of that, he realized that there was a difference in aristocrats. For ordinary people, they only differ in who takes more. Even his father thinks more of knights than ordinary people, as he considers them the strength of the nation. Despite the lack of budget, the father maintained the knightly order with a large number of warriors, and the people were unhappy with this. It is time to change the attitude towards these men and women and restore their trust. Dwayne was surprised. This young guy never ceases to amaze him lately. If true trust develops between these two, they will be able to achieve many successes for the family. Soon, Logan went to meet with his construction assistants. They were shocked when they heard that he wanted to make a hole in the mountain. After that, he plans to release water from the river there and even build a lock. The guy knows that this plan is real, so he orders everything to be done according to his instructions. The McLean territory is surrounded by mountains. Their lands are barren, and even small mountains in the north block the passage of the river to the south. That's why he wants to make a big hole in the northern mountains, so that running water can flow through them. The dwarf thinks it would be more logical to do it a little differently, by digging that tunnel under the mountain. The plan replied that he had already calculated everything and there was no need to worry about it. His technique is called a reservoir in the West, but this method of water control would only become popular in the Empire 20 years later. The principle of operation has long been known, and we must not forget that he has at his disposal a gnome master and a sorcerer of the fifth circle. If these two manage to accomplish their tasks, they will transform the desert in the west of the territory into a true paradise on Earth. In any case, they still need to carefully choose the right place. It is important to analyze the condition of the land and other nuances, the dwarf believes. The sorcerer did not expect that this plan of action could be implemented. Now, these two will not be able to take back their words, so they will have to complete this difficult task. They have just started work and Logan allows them to choose a mountain that is ideal for this task. It is unknown whether they will be able to cope with this mission, but in any case, they need to try. There's no need for witchcraft in this matter. Although if Logan is personally present, everything should go smoothly. The sorcerer began his work, and everyone around him could only watch with open mouths as he performed his technique. The dwarf asked him to act more carefully and not demonstrate his strength at full power, but Clayton did not hear him. In addition to strength, people can absorb such extraordinary energy as mana. In his past life, Logan was only able to feel it a little, but now everything is different. The power of the earth comes from the circle of mana in the sorcerer's heart. He stimulates this energy with the help of a spell. It's hard to even believe that you can see this with your own eyes. Probably the core of power developed Logan's sense organs. This sorcerer is truly a master of his craft. Now it is obvious that the sorcerers of the fifth circle are on a different level. They can collect stones and turn him into a real monster. It's amazing that such a large golem can be created in a few seconds without tools. If you make several such monsters, you can speed up the pace of work. In addition, it can help increase the combat power of the army, which is also important. That's why the boy approached the sorcerer and began asking him to make more such monsters. It turned out that his students also know how to create golems. They learned this in early childhood. Of course, there are some problems. The form of the spell to create a golem core is only available to the fifth circle of sorcerers. That's why the students need mana stones, but even so, they will still end up with small and weak golems. Mana stone is the same mineral as orichalcum or mithril. It holds the natural energy of mana, which makes it rare. It cannot be artificially created, and it is quite expensive, as it is most often used to aid in spells or the creation of artifacts. Mana stones are not economically profitable, although during war money is not important, because the main thing is victory. With the help of a mana stone, monsters will become much stronger, so this is an important artifact. Of course, given that the sorcerer has the fifth circle, he will have to find a mana stone of the highest quality, and that is not easy. Even for weak monsters, you will have to find a low-level stone. This will be enough for the monster's 24 hours of life. A low-level mana stone costs like a piece of gold. The price-quality ratio is quite poor. For a short war like the last one, such monsters would be very useful, so there's something to think about here. Soon Dwayne and the other people saw the golem for the first time. Of course, they were shocked. It seemed like this monster had come to destroy their land, but in reality, he was trying to help. Logan explained that these monsters were needed to create the tunnel, but Dwayne was still scared and said that he needed to tell Patrick about it. They will build 3 large structures. The tunnel and the dam will have to be built from scratch. After that, they will be able to move on to building a water canal that will deliver water from the river to every corner of the McLean territory. Of course, we shouldn't forget about the cave. There are already results there. For the entire time, Logan was absent, since the workers hardly had any rest. After returning to the capital, he was busy building a dam, so he didn't follow the work in the cave at all. But that should be fixed tomorrow. The next day, he immediately set out to analyze the results of the work in the cave. He immediately met the dwarf and started a serious conversation with him because he was dissatisfied with some nuances. Hamar got angry and started shouting, "He is responsible for many objects and is ready to die rather than work at this pace." The dwarf has been dreaming of a vacation for a long time, and I remind you that without him, all this would be impossible. He is not going to do everything for others, so he wants to be treated fairly. Logan assured that he greatly appreciates his help and knows that he is a key employee of this project. Now he will be involved in all organizational work. It turned out that this news angered the dwarf even more. They were trying to blame him for all the responsibilities. The heir to the family suggested not to worsen their relationship and assured that he would definitely organize a vacation for all employees. Hamar was forced to agree to these conditions, although Logan behaved too impudently. Now the mine will be built faster than in the past life, although there may be problems with the dam. Logan returned home and decided to contact Philip Cloud, so he learned that the building materials would be delivered without problems. In addition, they easily agreed on other materials for a large sum of money each month. After the mine and land clearing work is complete, the area will be completely transformed and Philip will come to visit. They also began discussing rumors that the kingdom's main family was in trouble. Logan learned about this while training at the Sword Duke's house. Although the details are unknown, the matter looks serious. Judging by the memories from his past life, the king must die next winter and a civil war will begin. The information that Logan possessed in his past life may not be relevant, but if the king's death is truly unexpected, then everything will be as in his past life. The main thing is to prepare for this event in advance. The McLean house will take part in a war that will turn the order in the kingdom upside down. He ordered Philip to set aside money in a reserve fund and buy plenty of weapons and armor to have enough for a real army. Philip was shocked and said that this was not a child's task at all, and he would not want a civil war in the first place. Sometimes this guy becomes truly unbearable, impossible to listen to. We need to minimize the military draft and strengthen knights and ordinary soldiers. Arming weak soldiers is a special part of the plan, and Philip must accept it. Their wealth will be supported by the mine, their food will come from the new dam, so now they only have to worry about war. The main preparations for the important sprint forward are progressing slowly and steadily. Soon it was time to meet with Dwayne again to read and sign a large number of documents. Logan replied that he was not going to read such a large amount of text and was ready to sign everything immediately. It turned out that the work of a lord is not an easy task. You have to solve many important issues. Previously, Dwayne was doing all this, but now he decided that Logan should help him. At that moment, Kai entered the room and said that a very important and urgent matter had arisen. This came as a real shock to the young heir to the family, as he learned that the Hamar was stuck in a collapsed mine. It's about 50 meters of tunnel that collapsed, so it's difficult to understand the exact location of the dwarf. While they were talking, Dwayne was trying to understand where the mine had come from on their territory in the first place. But there was no time to explain everything to him now. The heir to the family immediately went to the mine to begin search work. One of the workers tried to explain everything to him, but Logan didn't listen to him and confidently moved forward. Ahead of him lies true darkness and the unknown, but he is not afraid of it. Having gone deep into this mine, he finally saw the main problem. By touching the stones with his hand, he was able to see what was happening on the other side. It became clear that not only the dwarf was there, but also 10 other workers, although they escaped the worst, but were still affected. It will take about 3 days of work to clear the passage, and that's if everything goes perfectly. Even the strongest dwarf in the world cannot last that long in this hellish place. The more time passes, the less chance of survival. These people need to be saved right now, and Logan has one idea how to do it. He ordered Clayton and his disciples to be immediately summoned to him, and soon they met. There was no time for idle talk, which is why they got straight to the point and Logan explained what the problem was. He promised a large compensation for the help, if of course it was alive. Hearing that there were many people in danger, Clayton immediately promised to help. They immediately went to the mine and began their sorcery. While Clayton holds the tunnel, his students must use golems to clear the stones. They already have the mother stones in their hands to create monsters. Very quickly the process was started, and real monsters were formed from ordinary stones. It's hard to believe that these young people are already so educated and hardworking. Now a lot depends on speed. Time is working against them. People were surprised that an aristocrat would help them with his own hands in order to save those of lower rank. No one would believe this story if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes. Soon they were finally able to find the dwarf. It was obvious that he was in serious condition. Probably the dwarf and the other workers who were stuck in the mine lost consciousness due to shock. It was very fortunate that their injuries were not very serious and they were saved. All this happened because the dwarf worked a lot. He should have been given rest much earlier. Soon his condition improved, and he assured that the work was not difficult and he would be able to return in a few days. It turned out that Logan wanted him to rest and regain his strength, and only then return to work. In this case, he will have to really agree to these conditions and finally feel the sweet taste of rest. Magic is an amazing power. With its help, it was possible to complete the rescue operation in just 2 hours. Clayton said that the mine was truly extraordinary. It was strange to watch this wizard say ordinary things with such an aggressive expression on his face. He probably found out about the gold in this mine. There will be a lot of problems if others find out about it. They did everything possible to save Hamar, because without him, this work would have been impossible. In the future, they will need a lot of money to prepare for war. So now, it is important to develop all these areas in parallel. Clayton decided to find out if Logan wanted to build a magic tower on his territory again. The wizard believes it's time to open his own business, and in his opinion, this place can support a small magical tower. It didn't look like this man was joking at all, so Logan immediately replied that that would be perfect. His students will stay with him and live in this tower. He needs everything he needs to work and he hopes for Logan's help. Thus, they agreed on a new direction for the development of the McLean area. A week has passed since that conversation, and Hamar has now fully recovered from his injury and is ready to return to the tunnel. He will try to compensate for the delay and make up for lost time. All that remains is to wish him luck. Later, Dwayne came to the young head of the family. He had been dreaming of hearing about the mine for a long time because no one had told him anything. He wants to understand when Logan started secretly developing this mine and why he didn't tell him about it all. The guy replied that he had completely forgotten to do it and explained that there was a lot of gold in this mine. According to conservative estimates, it should bring in 100 million gold coins a year, and this is no joke. Hearing this story, Dwayne almost lost consciousness. So aside from a small incident, the plan is progressing successfully. The workers constantly talked about the aristocrats' plans. They tried to understand why a new meeting was being held. It seems as if the construction of the dam has been completed. Although according to the plan, the work should be completed in only 3 months. Rumor has it that this meeting is needed for a final check. When everyone was gathered, it was time to start the project analysis. Some believe that it would be better to spend all this money on repairing the south wall. Not everyone is happy with this project, and therefore they are trying to understand what Dwayne knows about all this. It turned out that this dam would not only help with water issues, but it was also connected to the underground part of the Lutheran Church. If it is possible to constantly provide water to the canal, then this entire area could become a true paradise on Earth. Everyone participated in the construction, from ordinary workers to young wizards, even the leaders came. All settings have been completed. The launch of the dam should be remembered for a lifetime. Logan wants to show everyone in the McLean area that this structure was built for their happiness. Some people saw real monsters for the first time, so there was panic for a while. A little later, Clayton ordered the monsters to open the dam gates, and the process was started. So far, nothing is working. For some reason, these monsters don't want to obey their master. All this is not part of the plan at all, and the reputation of the family heir may suffer. That's why he ordered the gates to be broken down immediately. It's a rather strange decision, but it's an order. Clayton immediately had his monsters destroy the gate, although this is not an easy task. Soon, finally, everyone around saw the water and was happy. Logan was most happy about this. His long-standing dream had finally come true. Now they finally have water. They will be able to get it with the help of this dam, and their whole life will change. There should be no more food problems during the Civil War. Then Logan approached his assistants and said that the gate could not be rebuilt yet. Dwayne ran to Logan and started hugging him with tears in his eyes. He admitted that he had been wrong about this guy before. Then Logan approached his assistants and said that it was better not to rebuild the gates in the dam, at least not yet. First, it's better to focus on completing the work in the mine, after which you can rest. Many farmers will come to these areas to start working here. Of course, it will be difficult for them to come here from the city every day, so we need to build a new village where they can live. Logan wants a dwarf to take care of this process, although he likes working in the mine much more. When they gathered to open the floodgates, Logan made 2 promises to the workers. He said that anyone could work on these McLean lands, and they would also receive tenant rights with a small percentage of taxes. Now their rights will change. After this reform, even vassals will not be against it. After the dam opened, another 4 weeks passed, and work continued in other areas. The gnome was able to finish the city planning and house modeling very quickly. Logan really chose the right gnome. The roads will be interconnected and the distance between houses will remain the same, and each section will have shared wells and toilets. There will be a sewer outside the city so that you can throw your garbage there. It's hard to think calmly about the future when you can smell your servant's bad breath. The drugs are probably in great demand. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't have to suffer so much. A little later, Dwayne reported that Hamar had sent a message about the start of the development of a gold mine. They have already been able to extract rare gold stones from the cave. Usually they have to be extracted in small quantities from minerals. This time they found ready-made specimens, and this is a very good sign. Dwayne immediately began kissing the dwarf and thanking him for helping their family. Logan also thanked the helpers and said that it was too early to rest, because additional crossbows for the knights needed to be made. Of course, the dwarf could not be happy about this news, but he has absolutely no other choice but to submit to the will of the Lord. After a short conversation, Logan allowed the dwarf to rest for a few days. As soon as the dwarf heard these words, he immediately said goodbye and ran back to his house. Meanwhile, Dwayne could not calm down and continued to cry with happiness. He was already mentally counting the profits from the gold. He probably needs to be explained that the mine belongs to Logan, and he's not going to share it with anyone. Of course, he will pay 30% in taxes, but he will take everything else into his own pocket. It is also necessary to ensure that the workers do not talk unnecessarily, and news about the mine must not spread throughout the kingdom. Dwayne said that he would personally look into the matter and monitor its constitutionality. Patrick McLean could also be a problem. His son has done a lot while he was away at training. A week later, the family lord returned and immediately met with his son. During all this time, he made great progress and became a professional knight. This is exactly what Logan was expecting when he gave him the Iron Blood Sword technique. His skills had made great progress in just 3 months, even though this progress had not been made for nearly 10 years. The father knows that his son has done a lot during his absence. He is happy that water has finally appeared in this desert. It makes his heart beat faster. He noted that none of this would have been possible without Logan, and he is pleased that his son has changed so much. These are all just recent achievements. Although everything Logan has done in 3 months is more important than Patrick's actions in a lifetime. Patrick said he was ready to hand over the leadership of the Logan house, at least for a while he trained the knights. Of course, the young heir to the family did not plan to become a lord, although his father had completely different ideas. During all this time, he felt that he was aging. Although he was able to master the basics of the iron blood sword technique, the hidden technique was completely beyond his body's control. If Patrick had begun to study it in his youth, when his power had awakened, then everything would have turned out differently. With the current strength, which has formed its flow over a large number of years, it will not even be able to create a core. As he abandons all these youthful hopes, he believes it is time for his children to take over the leadership of the McLean lands. Thanks to this, he will finally be able to break through the barrier that has hindered him for many years. It's time to step aside and empower the younger generation, to train those who will pave the way for others. After a short thought, Logan agreed, probably because he had no choice. Now it's time to talk to your stepmother. She should also take a step forward. The father ordered his eldest son to approach her and listen. Marion recognizes that Logan's achievements are enough to recognize him as a reliable heir to the family. Previously, she only wanted her son to succeed, and that's why she fought with Logan. There's no point in him apologizing anymore because he did it before. She didn't accept his apology because of her character, but she hopes he'll understand her. Marion is very pleased that Logan decided to teach her son the art of the sword. Perhaps this is all due to the Ronin's genius because after just a week of training, he had already created his own core of power. The mother had not seen her son as happy as he was now for many years. She asked Logan to continue to take care of Ronin, because in the future he will remain his younger brother. That was the end of their conversation. A big step forward in their relationship. Finally, Logan asked to talk to him without formalities in the future, just like in childhood. Today was the first time he called her his mom, and Patrick couldn't help but be happy after hearing those words. Thus, the conversation was completed. We can safely say that this is a big step forward in communicating with the family. Once the city is completed, the process of clearing and restoring the land for farmers will begin. There is hope that the impact will be much greater than what was before. The main thing is that the residents agree to move to the new city. Logan plans to share ownership with those people who move to this city, and these houses are better in quality, which is a big plus. Recruitment for knights has also begun. If they join the regular army, the Patrick will be able to teach them new techniques. On the one hand, the father is satisfied with his son's work, but he only found out today that they now have 2 knightly orders. Knight McLean, as well as those who defected to their side after Tesron's defeat in the feudal war, formed a new order. Even though they are under their leadership, they still behave like rivals, and this is not a good sign. Patrick understands that it is difficult to get closer to someone with whom he previously fought not for life but for death. But he hopes that they understand what he is doing. A knight is a man of honor. He wants to see in them a thirst for progress because when he trained, he was always ready to die in order to become better. His son is also constantly working for the progress of the territory, so it's hard for them to see the knights behaving like little children. Previously, Patrick was too inattentive to them, and he takes full responsibility for this. It's time for a change. The general of the knightly order has an idea. He has already learned that the Patrick has made progress in the art of the sword. That is why he initially wants to take up the discipline of the knights and teach them the art. They won't have time for stupid thoughts because they'll be tired to death from training. In 20 years in management, Dwayne could not even think that signing documents could make him happy. We need to think about not having enough money for food. Although not everyone understands that Logan makes their lives better, some still doubt his skills and consider him too young to rule the territories. Although when Dwayne saw where Logan was trying to spend the money, he also started to worry. It turned out that the young lord wanted to buy mithril, about 100 kilograms, and Dwayne had to be forced to sign all these papers. Logan's goal is quite simple. He wants to buy mithril to equip the knights, although Philip believes this is impossible. It turned out that this precious metal could not be purchased without a lot of money. Mithril holds a large charge of magnesium. It is 10 times stronger than steel and 3 times lighter than it. It is often even called the silver of the gods. Such jewels cannot be bought with money alone. Ordinary people cannot obtain mithril, let alone such a large-scale order. So this requires not only money, but also a huge social influence, and Logan has an idea for that. Soon, the workers of the wealthy house received a request from the countryside, from the McLean house. They decided to report this to the Duke, even though he was usually busy. Half an hour later, the Duke was informed of a message from the McLean family. Felix had not seen Logan for a long time. The young heir to the family greeted his friend and said that he had important business. He began to say various pleasant words to the Duke. This guy knows how to negotiate with influential people. Logan was surprised to hear that the Duke wanted to thank him, although it seemed like it was just sarcasm. It soon became clear that there was no hint of a joke here because the Duke's wife became pregnant. This was really extremely pleasant news, and Logan understands perfectly well that he contributed to this, even if only partially. Pepper thanked Logan for all the pills he had received and said they had made him believe in miracles. When the child is born, Logan must come to the capital, because the Duke's wife also wants to thank him personally. While he is in the capital, the Duke will be able to teach him another sword technique, and that is another piece of good news. The Duke has no more news. Now he wants to hear why Logan called him. The reason is quite simple. This talented guy wants help buying mithril, about 100 kilograms to create knightly equipment. First, you need to make sure that there is enough money for this, although the drugs probably sell well and bring in big profits. The Duke doesn't invest that much money in his knights, so he underestimated the generosity of the Logans. Soon he promised to take care of this matter and help. Felix is a really good person. After that, he asked not to call him Duke, but rather to address him as mentor. When Logan has everything ready, he should call again and then the mithril will be purchased. We can confidently say that this is another small victory on the way to great success. Now you can go to the Hamar and talk about mithril equipment. Things are really going great. The problem is being solved every day, and it seems that a happy future awaits the McLean family. Moving to the outskirts of McLean's estate, these young men came to get the opportunity to become knights and passed a simple test. Dwayne is not sure that it is necessary to hire so many workers. Usually you do not need a huge number of knights in the army. No matter what anyone says, it is necessary to increase one's own capacity. The Order of Knights is a symbol of the power of the territory. They protect the lands from enemies and preserve the peace of ordinary people. Only the most talented of all are accepted. And then these guys undergo rigorous training in order to become true knights. Then they awaken their powers and become heroes, but a new theory emerged in the Empire, and they decided to approach the issue differently. It is now believed that physical naturalness and the awakening of strength are two different directions. They are more important than the sense organs. Thanks to this theory, the Empire used the power of many thousands of knights in war to destroy neighboring countries in 9 years. They gathered all the soldiers and reselected them to form a squad of knight apprentices. This will cause problems during the Grand Civil War, which will begin in a year, although 9 years later it will help them in the war with the Empire. Previously, the selection of soldiers was very simple. They were ordered to run forward and only the fastest ones were trained in knighthood. So this rough selection was based solely on physical strength. It's no wonder the number of knights hasn't increased all these years. Now we need to accept people with developed vision, hearing, and quick reactions. It's time to change the rules of the game. The young children were told to walk forward until they saw an image in front of them. Although this seems like a rather strange activity, Logan is confident that it will lead to progress. It turned out that some children can see drawings from a great distance, which immediately speaks of their talents. The second test will test their hearing. They must walk forward until they hear what Dwayne is saying. Some didn't hear anything, but there were children who could hear the words even at a great distance. Some even heard Dwayne talking to himself. Such talents are definitely needed in the regular army. Almost 250 boys passed this test. All of them have excellent results, but we still need to find twice as many students. Among them are many children who are obviously undernourished and underdeveloped. It will be difficult to create future warriors from them, but if you try to help them, then after a while, you can get good results. Back to Victor, this guy continues to train hard despite the weather and fatigue. Logan told him that if he perfectly performed the Thousand Swords technique, he could become a knight, although Victor believed it was better to awaken his power. He wants to become a knight much sooner because he believes their master could abandon them at any moment. In fact, Logan didn't even think about something like that. He sees the guy's talent and is ready to give him any time. The boy is already 16 years old. He has only been studying the art of the sword for a year, but he maintains the correct basic stance, even with sudden changes in position. In addition, it is immediately noticeable that his speed and reaction are much faster than those of his peers. His martial arts are still similar to that of an aristocrat assassin, although his personality is changing. This guy will need to find a training partner soon. Tomorrow, Logan plans to leave the estate and go train soldiers in Tesron. Most likely this will continue until winter. He is ready to offer Victor to go with him. The guy would be happy, but only if they take Rhea with them. Logan said that taking a girl to a place where there are a huge number of men around is not the best idea. However, Victor still remained certain that he wanted to take her with him. He usually seems like an adult, but sometimes he starts acting like a little child. We had to agree to his terms, but if something happens, he will bear full responsibility for these actions. The guy assured me that he would watch his sister closely, so everything would be fine. This guy has no other family, so he's very worried about her, especially after his parents died because of him. Now he is obliged to protect his sister because she is all he has. A few days after that, they set off for the main Tesron estate. Kai began training with the children. He ordered them to run around the walls of the estate and develop their endurance. The training conditions were quite tough. The kids needed some time to get used to it. Kai immediately announced that they had not come here to play games, but to become real men. Logan enjoys working with experienced people, and he is sure that the role of instructor is a great fit for this one-eyed pirate. Recently, Logan offered his main knight a contract renewal, which was good news for Kai. This experienced warrior has already guessed that war will break out in the coming years because Logan wants to upgrade his weapons and equipment. The head of the family heir explained that he was not going to start a war, although sometimes it was impossible to avoid it. Among all the children who came to this territory to become knights, Victor was the most talented. The other children couldn't understand what he was made of. It seemed like this person was from another world. They used to insult him as a slave because of his past, but now he makes them look at themselves from a different perspective. This gives the children extra motivation to work, and their experienced leaders can't help but be happy. Victor is noticeably getting stronger. It's not long before he awakens, when he will become one of the strongest in the army. Logan does not even suspect that in the near future, despite his hopes, Victor will kill a person. After active classes, the children had the opportunity to have a good rest and a meal. They have already started to notice that they are gaining weight during these few weeks of being in this place. Victor and his sister Ria began the process of integrating into this community. The girl looks pretty, so other guys treat her with respect. And more. Some even dream of talking to her and becoming friends, although they should be more careful with their wishes. Ria has her own brother who will always watch over her and will not let anyone hurt her. Victor was always an energetic guy. As soon as he saw that his sister had gone somewhere, he tried to find her. He went outside to give her some delicious buns and noticed something scary. Having reached a dead end, he saw that a man was trying to molest his sister. The boy immediately forgot about everything in the world. Now only his sister exists for him, because she is all he has left. He is not going to forgive anyone for even the slightest violation of her personal boundaries. With the first blow, he broke the man's nose and knocked out several teeth. This man got angry and called him a slave. He tried to get up and retaliate, but instead received several more punches in the face. At first, Ria tried to stop her brother, but then she realized that it was better not to do it. He became so angry that he could no longer stop and continued to beat the man until he died. In those moments, he thought only about his sister. He must worry and take care of her no matter what. He didn't even realize that he was being secretly watched, and soon everyone around him would know about this incident. A little later, he saw a shadow above him and turned his head to see who was approaching him from behind. It turned out that Logan was standing behind him. He asked Victor to calm down and stop. His sister was immediately taken from this street. Her psyche might not be able to withstand such a shock. The Lord also ordered the dead boy's body to be taken away, and then he was left alone with Victor. The guy explained that he did not regret his actions at all, although he was ready to apologize. He apologizes for killing one of the soldiers without permission, and understands that it was wrong. Logan recalled that all this happened because of Victor's stupid wishes. He was the one who ordered his sister to go with him, even though he understood that it could be dangerous. Because of his foolish desires, she almost got hurt, so constantly taking her with him and protecting her is not the best option. She won't be able to be taken with her to the battlefield. Logan only allowed this to happen so that Victor would understand something. Now this little guy has to draw conclusions. Maybe it will change him forever. Victor is ready to accept any punishment, but Logan is in no hurry to punish him. He killed a man, but he trained well today, so next time he'd better ask permission to kill. As strange as it may sound, Victor accepted it and promised to change his attitude. Kai is unhappy that the students are killing other soldiers. He believes this is unforgivable. As for the person who died, it was a guy who, according to rumors, was constantly behaving badly. As for coming here, he tried to seduce the Ria, so he deserved a harsh punishment. We will have to say that Victor acted according to Logan's orders, and then we can avoid problems. A little later, Logan marked an interesting area on the map. He was preparing a secret mission for the soldiers. The news that Victor had killed a man shocked the others, although they were already afraid of this guy. Although after the details of the crime became known, most students sided with the victors. The incident was resolved very quickly. Logan did everything perfectly. Time flew by very quickly. The next 3 months passed as if in 3 days. Currently, more than 1,000 students are participating in the training. Only a small part of them failed to cope with the workload. Now everyone has really gotten into great shape and has made significant progress. Only those guys who have a sufficient level of endurance and energy remain. Basic training is almost complete. Logan asked Hamar to make additional crossbows. There wouldn't be enough for everyone, but it would be enough to conduct combat training. Before that, Logan talked to his father. Patrick advised the forest near the mountains as an ideal place for such training. The time has come. The knights must train and experience real practice. They have learned the basics of the Iron Blood sword, though true mastery only comes in actual combat. Logan completely agrees with these words. Abilities can only improve when you train them in real conditions. It seems like these two have sold their souls to Satan. It's even hard to look at them. Several days have passed since this conversation. Let's move on to the forest near the mountains in McLean territory. The warriors were ordered to raise their swords and control their breathing. Today, they must demonstrate what they are capable of. At first, their task was quite simple. They had to make trees with their blows, and it worked. It's nice for everyone around to see months of hard training bear fruit, so this is the true power of the iron-blooded sword. Logan asked the knights and students not to relax because there are many scary things in this forest. You can find real monsters here, especially a large number of goblins. Soon they met and had to demonstrate their talents in practice. It turned out that goblins are not scary at all, at least not as scary as they were said to be. These are quite primitive creatures without much strength, but if you undergo full training, they are easy to defeat. It's especially easy to defeat with crossbows, but there are some things more terrifyingly lost in this forest. Soon everyone saw that the big horned wolves were approaching them, so now it was time for the real tests. These are not goblins at all. They are much stronger and more aggressive than these green monsters. If you act in a coordinated manner, like a real team, you can even defeat them. Although it will take a lot of effort and energy to start with, because regular arrows don't pierce animal skin. Today, these future knights are being watched by the most respected people in McLean territory, so they have no right to fail. Victor was ahead of everyone and tried to demonstrate all his talents. It seemed as if his time had come. Soon Logan saw that some of the students were having problems, so he had to personally participate in the battle. As expected, difficulties arise among children when unpredictable things start to happen. Those who scored in the top 100 in sensory testing immediately stand out from the rest. Although Victor showed himself best of all today, he is like a real predator in the jungle. His actions are very confident, his speed is extraordinary, and his strength is also at a high level compared to his peers. Everyone around sees his progress and begins to be truly afraid of this guy with the multicolored eyes. It is obvious that he will soon be awakened and enter the realm of the aura user. Soon it was time for the experienced knights to do some work as well. On their side, they also performed their task flawlessly, so the experienced warriors are not lagging behind the youth. It's been a month and a half since the start of training, and they have improved all their skills. They found 3 cities where there were thousands of monsters, but now you can't be afraid of all these places because everything around has been cleared. All this became a reality only with the help of Logan. He was able to predict these events. He continued to lead the warriors and ordered them to cut down trees, which would be needed to build houses. This process has been going on for a month and a half now, and some knights are not satisfied because they did not study sword technique until now. Logan pays no attention to them. He trained the soldiers and found a tree for the city. That is, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. There were a lot of monsters around, so I had to delay, but now it's all behind me. Some candidates who were among the best in testing have now made great progress. Some showed a special talent for survival, and some showed leadership qualities. In any case, Logan is satisfied. Now there is enough wood to complete the construction of the city of McLean, with only 1 month left until spring. Hamar said that he would try to make it, although it would be very difficult for him. He needs the help of sorcerers in this difficult task, and the workers are quite motivated after building the dam. There is enough food, there are no problems with money or anything, so everything goes pretty quickly. Logan even has a hard time understanding whether this dwarf has always been so reliable. The sorcerers also worked tirelessly. Their help was always needed in construction. Clayton is a true master of his craft. Without him and his assistants, this would have been impossible. Logan thanked them for their help. A magical tower would soon be built on this site. In addition, he promised annual aid of 10 million. That is why it doesn't matter at all where and what size this tower will be. If everything goes according to plan, this city will become the center of the entire region and will even be bigger than Tesron. People will have a place to live and how to grow food, so everyone will be happy. Of course, the city is small, and there will be a large number of people who will want to live here, so there is a risk of an uprising. Of course, this won't happen if you don't engage in exploitation, although this guy might have problems with that. Logan also hopes that this land will not be a place for future wars. He wants people here to live in peace and tranquility. In the evenings, when everyone went to bed and rested, Logan did not forget about training. He tried not to waste time and to accelerate his combat progress as much as possible. He soon discovered the second form of the Divine Sword's secrets, a cut that pierces iron. Time flew by very quickly. Another month had passed since that training session, and then another. The city of McLean was being built day and night, and the first families finally got the opportunity to move into the house. It was nice to watch the tears of joy in those people's eyes. They couldn't believe that they really received free houses. At this pace, summer came. Logan tried not to slow down and continued to work hard. Dwayne reported that the development of urban lands is proceeding at the right pace. The only drawback is that they have little male labor for so much land. Hamar is still on vacation. This time he decided to take a long break, so he won't be back soon. It seems that Logan has been treating him too well lately, although this dwarf really does his job flawlessly. Before going on vacation, Hamar received a lot of mithril, and Dwayne heard about it. The dwarf received this metal in order to have work even during his vacation, to make weapons for the knights. So the Hamar is not exactly resting. We can say that for a dwarf, rare metal is a real dream. In any case, the construction of the city is complete, and there are no problems with its development. Meanwhile, Viscount Max Peretta is unhappy that the McLeans are taking over the wasteland. He had already learned that changes had taken place in their territory, that although they lacked money, now these lands were flourishing. According to rumors, at first the heir to the family made a lot of money in business, then he found a gold mine and decided to change everything. Max replied that he wasn't interested in rumors. He only paid attention to the facts and wanted to know how much crop would grow on McLean's land. With modest calculations, it can be understood that the McLean family's harvest will be twice as much as Max Parrott's. When a neighboring area starts making a lot of money, you can't sit idly by. Some residents from their territory went to the city of McLean just to see what was inside. Max Peretta will probably want to take all this land as compensation, but it is dangerous to do it with your own hands. First, you need to contact Viscount Sylvan. They also have high taxes, so they probably lost some of the city's residents too. Now the two factions want to unite in order to seize McLean's territory. Meanwhile, Logan met with his father and told him that they had selected 300 of the best warriors and were training them separately. He hints that they are all ready to become future knights. At least he hopes so. On the other hand, there are too many of these guys. Even if they are constantly trained, after many years, not all of them will be able to exert their strength. Logan said that he is not going to change his plans and will continue to maintain the current training system. He wants to bring in even more soldiers every year, although his decision now seems strange. Their family is currently in the development stage. If it expands too much, it could provoke neighboring territories. Logan immediately explained that neighboring territories would want to capture them, even if they did not expand. The city of McLean is fully operational. The wasteland has turned into paradise, and the territory of Sylvan and Perret will not wait. They will attack. There are enough reasons to do this, although it may not seem obvious to everyone. Logan recalled that recently they have accepted a huge number of refugees who have left from neighboring territories. This is enough to attack and declare war, although Dwayne believes that countermeasures should be taken immediately. Only now did the father realize that from the very beginning his son had planned to start a new war. This is logical because you will have to face these enemies in any case. So far, the opinions of the second heir to the family are not accepted by the other members of the meeting. The father believes that he handed over power to his son too early, but it's better not to jump to conclusions. Aurora ran into the room and said that the neighboring territories had sent their representatives, so everything indicated that the war would begin soon. Now Logan felt confident in his abilities again. He was right, and now he was ready to talk about strategy. Representatives from neighboring territories were already in the new town of McLean. They looked around with surprised expressions on their faces, and you can understand them. They had never seen cities like this before. The houses were carefully built along a wide road, and that was not the only plus. Ordinary people are unusually joyful and happy. Although this city does not resemble a metropolis, there is a sense of freshness. Seeing all this, they realized that this city really deserved to be captured, although it would be very, very difficult to do so. Soon they entered the main estate to begin a conversation with the McLean family. They are ready to get down to business immediately and demand the return of refugees and more. To prevent such situations from arising in the future, they want to be given control of the Tesseron territory. In other words, these fools want to get a large estate and half the lands, that is, they want war. Logan predicted all these events in advance, and now everyone around him understands what this matter is coming to. These foreigners were accused of wanting to fight, and warned that the McLean family would not tolerate it. Representatives of Parrot and Sylvan believe that they can easily destroy the McLean family, and warn about this immediately. These people have probably forgotten their duties as aristocrats. It's time to remind them of this. The knights took out their weapons and said that there was no point in negotiating. These representatives were shocked. They couldn't believe that the McLean family was ready to go to war. Logan drew his sword and said that he would not allow anyone to speak to them from a position of power. Representatives of neighboring territories immediately ordered their guards to act and attack the young braggart. They still think he's a child, even though this guy has long since become an adult. He easily, in just a few seconds, destroyed all of these people's security. If they dared to take out their swords on foreign territory, they should prepare for death. Logan is tired of empty talk. Now he will punish, severely punish, for any show of disrespect. One of the representatives was killed. Logan decided to leave the other alive so that he could tell what happened to his masters. Patrick McLean raised his hand and ordered the knights to prepare for all-out war. On the same day that the Sylvan family ambassador was killed, McLean sent a magical message to both viscounts. Soto Sylvan couldn't believe what he was hearing. It seemed to him that the McLean family had lost their minds. They not only killed their representative, but also ordered them to be sent moral compensation. Soto believes that these pathetic worms have become too brazen, so it's time to destroy them. Soon, the McLean family was informed that Sylvanus was ordering the return of his refugees, payment of compensation, and giving them the territory of Tesron. In 2 days, he expects a response and hopes that his proposal will be accepted. Maybe the other families don't know that the McLean family has become much stronger and has increased its army. Logan believes that it is necessary to capture the Sylvan territory as quickly as possible. The more they show strength, the fewer such situations there will be in the future. There is no need to mobilize soldiers. If we act quickly, the Pareda family will be afraid and change their plans. The Kai entered the room where the father and son were, and he said that his warriors were ready to act and were awaiting orders. The warriors received all the necessary equipment and weapons, and there is confidence that no other army will stop them. Crossbowmen became 5 times stronger than before. The level of the father and knights increased due to the mastery of the iron bloodsword. It is unlikely that they will now lose the battle to these 2 windows, although there is no need to provoke them simultaneously for now. After the unification of the lands, the McLean family will have 5 estates, which will make their territory the same as that of the Margraves. And it is then that the first and second princes, who are fighting for the throne, will want to win the McLean family over to their side. It is impossible to attract the attention of these factions now, as Logan wants to make the third prince king. In a past life, the first prince became king, but he took advantage of the McLeans and abandoned them. His repression greatly weakened the kingdom. The other prince is no different from the first, so we can only hope for a third prince, who is the queen's son. Despite his young age, the king considers him the heir to the crown, due to his outstanding talent, but the prince was unlucky because the king died. Right now, he is the only one who can avoid the tragedy that happened in his past life, which is why Logan wants to make him king. To do this, you need to win the civil war, remain invisible, and hold a sufficient number of territories. Kai also reported good news. The young warrior Victor was finally exercising his power. He was waiting for a personal meeting with Logan, and now he came to the main estate. The second heir to the family was happy and said that there was nothing to talk about. It was better to show his strength right away. Without much discussion, Victor immediately activated his inner energy and demonstrated his talent. The main representatives of the family were amazed and pleased. This was exactly what they were expecting. All this happened in just 2 years. Victor's talent is the same as in his past life. Now Logan is ready to give him the slave certificate because he will no longer need it, because now Victor has become a knight. It should be noted that promotion to the rank of knight will be postponed until the end of the war. Logan cannot allow such a situation and allow a person who is only a slave to immediately fight the knights. It's obvious that this guy craves battle and wants to see the blood of his enemies, but he'll have to wait. An opponent has already been prepared for Victor, and as soon as the time comes, he will be able to take out his sword. We need to send a Sylvan response and say that their behavior was too impudent. This means that there is no point in entering into any negotiations anymore. We must draw our swords and fight. The McLean family army approached the Sylvan estate and ordered the rivals to prepare for battle. Soon, Soto learned that he had been attacked by the McLean family. He was surprised and even a little scared. The general of the army said that they were ready to destroy McLean and would do everything possible to do so. The McLean family may have more warriors, but they fight on their own territory, so they have the advantage. Killian has already become a high-ranking knight, so now Patrick McLean is not the only one with extraordinary power. They can't wait. Even if the Peretta family sends reinforcements, they won't arrive until half a day later. It turns out that Soto is afraid that they will be able to defeat the McLean family, and then they will be betrayed by Peretta. This is all strange. McLean declared war and immediately came here, and the Peretta family is still silent. It seems that these miserable worms have joined forces against them. Otherwise, all this would make no sense. Meanwhile, the Patrick approached the walls of the estate and ordered the Soto Sylvan not to be afraid and to accept the battle. Meanwhile, the lord of his family gave orders and ordered them to prepare for battle. He became angry with Max Perret and promised to destroy him after he destroyed the McLean family. Logan knows who Soto Sylvan is. He won't be able to survive such an insult, so the fight will begin soon. All this seems strange to the general because Logan McLean has lived his whole life on his estate. He cannot know the character of other lords. Soon the gates opened and warriors of the Soto Sylvan family emerged. This army is smaller than the McLean families, but it is still well-trained and equipped. Killian ordered his warriors to prepare and think only of victory. Approximately the same words were heard by the knights of the McLean family from their experienced lord. Each army prepared for battle. The McLean knights were the first to begin advancing. The general of the enemy army is confident that he will win today. They are experienced and talented and will not give the invaders a chance to win. Soon, McLean's warriors began attacking with crossbows, usually considered an old-fashioned weapon. Seeing this, Killian said that he had overestimated his enemy, and now he understands that he is fighting against the Seljuks, although it quickly became clear that these crossbows were not ordinary weapons at all and posed a serious threat. He informed his warriors that this was a magical attack and they should all stick together. No one had ever seen such powerful crossbows in these territories, and this weapon should not be underestimated. The real battle began. The first dead soldiers had already fallen from their horses to the ground. Kai ordered the warriors to stay in formation and attack at maximum speed. Killian had already begun to think about retreating back to the walls of the estate before his army was destroyed. At this point, Patrick McLean turned to these warriors and said that if they were real men, they should fight with swords in their hands. Using the iron power sword technique, he began to destroy enemies and intimidate everyone else. Although the warriors of the Sylvan family began to panic, they did not have time to escape to the manor, so they were forced to fight. It's strange. Just 6 months ago, the Sylvan Knights were on the same level with them, but now the difference is extremely large. In addition, some of them, right in the middle of the battle, moved to a new level. Patrick McLean's training yielded extraordinary results, as did the weapons manufactured by order of Logan. Thanks to the iron power sword technique, the general overcame the wall behind which he had been stuck for a long time and became a high-ranking knight. Right now, the only threat to them remains the general of the enemy army. It's time to deal with it, and thereby take a big step towards victory. Having completed the second style of divine sword secrets, Logan rose almost to the level of a high-ranking knight. The wall he had expected to easily pass through turned out to be too high, and he has been unable to overcome it for several months. It was that period of anxiety when he thought he could do it, but he couldn't. This high-ranking knight from another fief had not studied the steel blood sword, unlike Logan. Now this guy is confident that he can overcome this high wall and reach a new level. The battle has begun. Both knights want to win and add confidence to their army. Killian immediately felt the toughness and power of his opponent. For the first time in many years, he was forced to retreat during a duel. You can assume that this is an insult to him. He cannot lose to a middle-ranking knight, so he is ready to use his special technique. All his attacks are too predictable. Logan sees them, so he can defend himself. He shows no fear at all and is ready to achieve victory at any cost. This will not be easy to do because his opponent is indeed a high-ranking knight who has his own secrets. Using speed and flexibility, Logan was able to inflict injuries on his opponent. Although Killian saw the moment of the attack, the speed of this red-haired guy reached a new level during the fight. It's time to end this confrontation. It can't last forever. It was really very effective. The morale of the soldiers immediately rose to maximum levels. The enemies began to panic. Of course, they can be understood. The panic is obvious when you see the first style of the Divine Sword secrets. When such a force approaches you, no defense can help. Any opponent, even an extremely strong one, faces total destruction. The warriors of the Sylvan family were shocked and disturbed by what they saw. Now everyone around realized that Logan was no longer a young boy. He was a real man with leadership skills. Soon his father was also able to achieve a local victory and capture Soto Sylvan. They informed the entire army of this and said that those warriors who admitted their defeat and laid down their weapons would remain alive. The rival army was destroyed. There were almost no losses among the McLean family warriors. The battle, which began at lunchtime, was over in just a few hours, with the McLean family in a decisive victory. This victory will provoke a major war, as rumors of this battle spread very quickly. The Lord of the Southwest had already learned about this. He had already started thinking about the next step. Meanwhile, the Soto Sylvan must atone for his sins, take some money, and leave the land with his family. Although he has a completely different opinion, he believes that the state will not tolerate such power grabs. It is not democratic. He believes that the Lord of the Southwest, Count Befros, will not tolerate such behavior on his land. It was impossible to say anything more terrible about Patrick McLean. At that time, the fall of the McLean house was due to the Count's inept leadership. Befros was previously one of the McLean's vassals, but then started a rebellion to profit from the chaos. The large, wealthy lands of the McLean came to belong to Befros, making him the ruler of this region. Thanks to state intervention, Befros did not force McLean to serve him, but the mere memory of him is enough to anger Patrick. Soto Sylvan quickly realized that he had said the wrong words. He tried to apologize, but it was too late. You have to be able to keep your mouth shut. Logan hopes that this situation will not lead to war with the Befros, because such an enemy will be too difficult to fight. After these events, several weeks passed. Lord McLean and his son were at the Sylvan estate. There is no news from Max Perret's family yet. It is unknown what these people are up to. The McLeans were able to defeat their opponents only through brute force. They were underestimated. With only one trump card up their sleeve, they wanted to remain unreachable in the test run. But there was one problem. It will not be possible to defend 3 estates from invaders at the same time, so everything needs to be reorganized. Logan suggested shifting the center of their possessions. If they built a city in the center, it would be easier to manage the estates. This is not a bad idea. They have already managed to destroy the forest with monsters, so they can use this area. Patrick McLean also admitted that this was a wise decision and he was ready to agree to it. Now it would be a good idea to force the warriors who serve the Soto family to side with the McLeans. It would be an ideal solution to immediately get qualified warriors instead of training children. In any case, there is no need to relax because of an easy victory. It was at this moment that the messenger announced that a message had arrived from Lord Befros. This lord said that he feels uncomfortable with the wars that McLean is waging. He doesn't like it happening on his lands. He ordered an immediate end to the conflict between Max Perret and Patrick McLean. Of course, Patrick believes that Befros has no conscience, because in this situation the McLean family is not at all to blame. Roger Befros is ready to invite everyone to his birthday party in a month to discuss this whole conflict. The reaction of the lord of the McLean family was expected. He had never heard such delusion in his life. He said that the McLean family serves no one and is not going to follow anyone's orders. Logan decided to take a step forward and said that this offer was really interesting. It would be nice to take this step. The father respects his son's opinions, but he's not going to let his family bow down to these idiots. Logan tried to explain that they shouldn't do it now, but they wouldn't be able to defeat Befros. They are doing well now, but they are crossing a line, and Roger has started to watch them closely. If you don't start acting wisely and stay close to the Lord, the situation could end very badly. The McLean family needs time to lure the Sylvan Knights, as well as force Perret to serve them, and of course reorganize the army. The Southwest is different from other regions of the kingdom. The Befros cannot rely on the loyalty of other aristocrats. If Roger tries to use his right as a lord, the other rulers will turn away from him. The reason is difficult to explain, but it is true. Logan explained that times have changed now, and his father has outdated information. When he was in the capital, he personally heard some aristocrats swear allegiance to the Befros family. To be more precise, Logan knows this from his past life, but it doesn't matter now. Soon permission was received. Logan was satisfied that everything was going according to his plan. He assured his father that everything would go smoothly and peacefully, that he would go to this meeting and see how the lands of their ancestors had changed. The guy quickly gathered himself and prepared to set off. A dwarf named Hamar approached him. He began to worry about his master and thought that he had been sold to enemies. It seems they are close enough to care about each other. Or maybe the dwarf is just thinking about his future freedom. He wanted Logan to finally free him from slavery, but it would be better if he didn't say that. Finally, the dwarf said that he had a gift, and assured that this gift was of very high quality. This sword is made of pure mithril and now belongs entirely to Logan. Soon, people began to gather near Befros Castle. Everyone knew that an important meeting would be held there. Also approaching here was Flan Pareda, the heir to the Pareda family, a rather young guy with blonde hair. He looked out the window and saw that the young heir to the McLean family was also already there. It's hard to believe that the McLean family was really able to capture the Sylvan territory, and now he walks around calmly even without security. Maybe his house suffered great losses in the war, so now there's no one to even protect it. If Bifrost intervened in this situation, Peretta could take advantage of it and grab the McLeans by the arm. The young Flan decided to go outside and personally greet Logan. He had already heard that this guy was able to kill 6 knights at once and immediately saw his weapon. They decided to shake hands, and Flan immediately felt incredible pain. Logan apologized and said he thought it was a test of strength. This is really brazen behavior, but the Flan can't do anything in response. He got so angry that he took out his sword. Are we really going to see a new battle now? Although Peretta is extremely angry, Logan remains calm. He knows that duels are prohibited in the territory of Bifrost. Logan is surprised that the heir to the Peretta family doesn't know his place, and this angers his rival even more. He ordered his men to immediately attack this snotty and destroy him. We'll have to show these guys who's boss, because they only understand the language of force. When Flan saw what had happened, he was even speechless for a while. He really underestimated his opponent. It seems this young guy is even better than people say. Soon a true legend came to them, and everyone around held their breath. This experienced warrior is called the Knight of the Moonlight, Sir Franz, whom everyone around knows. He is one of the 2 highest-ranking knights of Bifrost. Both heirs know him. It's strange that such an experienced knight was sent to meet 2 young boys. Flan immediately began to compliment this knight and tell him how much he respected him. So far, the Frenchman hasn't paid much attention to him. On the contrary, he's come closer to Logan. He probably wants to put pressure on this guy and show him who's in charge, but he won't be able to do it. Franz understood why there were so many rumors about this guy. It's no wonder that at such a young age he was already at the middle rank. When Fran heard that Logan was at the middle rank, he was shocked. All this time he had thought this guy was strong only with his mithril sword, but now he saw the full picture. After obtaining a high rank, knights develop a unique energy that cannot be hidden. Only a knight of the same rank or higher can see it. Since Logan has reached a high rank and earned 3 stars for the power core, he can control this energy. It's better to show just enough force while he's here to lower their guard, which is why Logan didn't bring security with him. He thanked you for the kind words and said that he trains a lot to be like a Frenchman. Soon they entered. Lord Bifrost had been waiting for them for a long time. The heirs of the other families are already in place. Now they can all rest a little and prepare for the celebration that will take place tomorrow evening. Fran continued to try to insult McLean, saying that someone who walks around unprotected hardly has a costume for the holiday. He can give Logan his pajamas because they're still better than the suit the guy's wearing now. My heir, McLean, decided to ignore him and go on vacation. He had long since realized that this young man was no match for him. If the family had such an heir, it would be easy to capture them. Logan isn't going to take off his armor here just yet, because he understands that anything can happen. This territory contains lands that past generations lost, so we must not lose concentration. Soon Logan met with the Lord. He had been waiting for this conversation for a long time. The Lord ordered him to take down his sword, wondering if Logan would listen to this man's orders. To begin with, he decided to say that it was a great honor for him to meet the master of these lands, Count Roger Bifrost. Everyone around him laughed at him because he was still in armor, like a real peasant. Lord Roger is a potential enemy. They may have to fight. So a few days before the meeting, Logan surveyed the surrounding area. He expected the people to be unsatisfying, just like in Sylvan and Tesseron, but they turned out to be quite friendly. The Lord is probably so wealthy that he doesn't even need to take money from the people, so taxes are low. If Logan came to this meeting, it's a hint that the McLean family is ready to obey the Lord's orders. Logan is preparing to confirm. His family is ready for this if there is peace and prosperity in the southwestern lands. Roger has the 5th circle, so he is not an ordinary lord at all. He has the powerful power and energy of a sorcerer. In a past life, there were many rumors that Count Bifrost demonstrated incredible strength during battle. He was on the side of the second prince who lost, so the log ignored him. The 5th circle is equal in strength to the advanced rank level, and this lord also has 2 very strong knights. The count decided to say a few words and ask for attention. First, he thanked everyone who came to his birthday party. He also said words of gratitude to the second prince for giving him the tears of the sun. Everyone around knew that these 2 were very close to each other, but they didn't expect their friendship to be so strong. For a long time, the aristocrats of the Southwest were separated from other territories. He believes that it is time to leave behind stupid traditions and customs and finally join forces. Roger is confident that the second prince will become king and will want to support this region. He also informed everyone that the McLean family conflict would be officially resolved. Logan is a talented guy. Thanks to him, his family won two important victories. Why is a genius only 21 years old and already a knight of medium rank? And this deserves special attention. Count Walterman, grandfather of the second prince, is looking for such talented people, and Roger is ready to give him a recommendation. Logan was very surprised. He said that it was a great honor for him, but he already had a teacher. He is training with a very important person, so he has to refuse the offer. Roger is not ready to accept this. The sword of heat will soon come upon them personally, so Logan can practice with it a little. This offer is not just for him. He is ready to do this training for all heirs. Logan understands that this is all just manipulation for the purpose of submission, but he decided to agree and said that he would wait for this training. This could be the first step towards uniting the southwestern lands, as Percival and Ruffman have already agreed to join forces. As a token of gratitude, the Lord wants to gift these heirs with important artifacts. These are very expensive gifts. A magical tool that holds extraordinary power that almost constantly grants magical properties. These artifacts are created by wizards from the Department of Sorcery. They are versatile and have a bunch of different strengths. Because of this, artifacts are divided into classes, based on the magic that imbues them. Now it's clear that this person has a lot of money because such gifts cost an extremely high price. Soon Percival and Ruffman swore their allegiance to him. They were happy and received gifts after their vows. All this was like a show. Roger was trying to show that he was very generous towards the people who worked with him. After that, Roger started looking at Logan because it seemed like his sword looked better than these gifts. Flan drank a lot of alcohol and began to focus on this. He wants to organize problems for Logan at any cost. The sword, which was made by the dwarf Hammer, is called Lux, which means twilight in the ancient language. Its power can be compared to a great artifact. The master created it personally for Logan. Such an object is filled with soul. Getting a good item from a dwarf isn't too difficult, but greedy aristocrats don't understand this. In the worst-case scenario, if his plan didn't work, Logan could use the sword to negotiate or to buy time. He had to tell everyone where he got this sword from and who made this weapon. Roger was surprised that this sword was made by a dwarf and wanted to see it for himself. Logan was already starting to think that he wouldn't get his sword back. He said that in his family, it was considered a wrong thing to do. It would be good to compare Logan to other people who received artifacts because they are also mid-ranking knights. If Ramon Percival wins the duel, Grav wants to take the sword for himself. If Logan can win this battle, he will receive an additional artifact as a gift. After a short pause, Logan replied that he agreed to these conditions and was ready to demonstrate all his talents. He took out his sword and showed with his whole appearance that he was confident in his own abilities. Both sides prepared their weapons and focused on the upcoming battle. Since Ramon is older, he allows his young opponent to strike the first blow. Logan doesn't accept this offer. He doesn't want to hear later that he had an advantage. Recognition of his genius has made Logan arrogant, so Ramon wants to show him that even in the sky there are clouds. Everyone around was anxious and looking forward to the battle. Mostly everyone considered Ramon the favorite. Roger intentionally gave him the artifact. He wants to help this guy win the battle. Compared to this sword, the light from the Lux is quite modest, but this sword is perfectly balanced, sharp, and strong. A sword is needed for its direct purpose, not to be considered a beautiful toy. The battle began, and Logan was immediately forced to defend himself from dangerous attacks. He is ready to take a few steps back and even let himself be scratched in order not to show all his power. Only then does he want, seemingly unintentionally, to strike back strongly. The guy wants to demonstrate only a small part of his strength, so as not to reveal all his cards. After the victory, he said that he was just lucky, but of course it was all just a show for the audience. You need to boost your metabolism with your core strength to make yourself sweat and look more convincing. Ramon is sure that this is all just a coincidence. He said that he is not used to his new weapon. Roger was upset about his performance. He can't believe this guy lost because of his gift. Logan McLean will have to keep his word and travel to get any artifact he wants. Soon the Lord's assistant reported to him that the Duke of Sword wanted to speak to him because of his birthday. Felix personally decided to call to congratulate a respected person in the kingdom on this holiday. He apologized for not coming in person. Felix is sure that all those who came to the holiday enjoy this process. During the conversation, the Duke noticed a young man in armor. He recognized him. Logan greeted his mentor and said that they hadn't seen each other in a long time, so now everyone understood who his teacher was. No one could believe that such a legendary figure was training an ordinary heir to a small family. Now it's clear why he refused to train with the Count, because he is being trained by a living legend. Felix immediately invited the student to come to the capital so that a banquet could be organized for him. Logan said that Count Roger made him an offer he couldn't refuse, although now Roger is ready to personally refuse it. Logan did the right thing by asking the Duke for help. It was all planned in advance. He takes a neutral side and has not chosen any of the princes, although he has great power over the royal family. Even a count cannot refuse to carry out the orders of such a man. It was obvious that Roger was unhappy. He had underestimated this red-haired guy. The next day, Logan was given the opportunity to choose any artifact as a gift. He saw many very interesting things, such as armor enhanced with fire and electricity magic. Although all the power is in a completely different place, Logan feels it perfectly. He saw a strange shoe. It exudes magic, although it seems that it is not an artifact at all. They continue to absorb his power, and this is very unusual. It feels like these shoes want to fight Logan, and they are much stronger than this guy. He soon began to suspect the special properties of this artifact, and the shoes interested him. Soon the boy left, taking with him a special artifact and saying goodbye to the Count. Roger cannot forgive such behavior. He ordered his men to catch up with Logan and take the artifacts along with his sword. You can do anything you want with this guy, the main thing is to keep him alive. Logan, meanwhile, stopped for a night's rest. Let's remind you that he is completely unguarded. Soon he felt the approach of unknown people who intended to kill him. The boy guessed what was happening. He saw the attackers who were armed and ready to attack him without any hesitation. All people want to hide their identity, and that is why they hide their faces. They know what they have to do. And remember that Logan has to stay alive. The guy is ready for any plot twists. That's what he trains for all the time. His new mithril sword is ready to withstand any load. Over all these months of training, he has become much faster, and this is immediately noticeable during the battle. Also, don't forget that he made the right choice when he took the shoes from the artifact room with him. When these shoes released the power that was inside, it seemed like a coincidence, but a little later it became clear that this was not entirely true. They give reaction speed and many different speed characteristics to their master. Moreover, they independently correct their flaws and adjust the size. This is an artifact of at least the 4th class. Soon Logan felt that a silver sword of power was next to him. It won't be easy for him, because he's an extremely high-level opponent. The guy was angry. The title of Knight of the Moonlight was earned dishonestly, and Sir Francis stands before him. Not only did Logan hide his true power and incredible artifact, this knight did the same. Now he decided to reveal his identity. There was no point in hiding the obvious. Franz wants to take all these artifacts as part of the lesson fee. This lesson can be brutal. He is ready to show the boy that his talent is nothing compared to the Sword of Moonlight. Logan understands perfectly well that he is facing a true swordmaster. But there is nowhere to retreat. He will have to accept the battle. The other criminals were shocked to see what was happening. This guy is not afraid and fights his opponent on equal terms. Franz is surprised. He doubts that this is possible only with the help of artifacts. Probably Logan learned this trick from the Duke of Sword. Logan replied that he had learned a lot more, and if he gets the opportunity, he would take advantage of them 100%. He tried to concentrate all his strength on his inner energy in order to show everything he was capable of. Franz is not going to calmly wait for his death. On the contrary, he is the one who takes the lives of others. There was a very loud explosion. It felt like 2 comets had collided. Sir Francis was sure that after such an attack, no one would remain alive and unharmed. That's why he was extremely surprised to see that Logan was still standing. This is called the 3rd form of the Divine Sword Secrets. Now the time has come when the Knight of the Moonlight must experience this incredible power on his own body. There was an even louder explosion than before. Everything around was covered in fire. The warriors were frightened and began to search for their leader and try to save him. He was very badly wounded, although he said he managed to dodge at the last moment. You wouldn't expect such attacks from an ordinary young middle-class guy. Logan decided to take the opportunity and escape immediately. There was no point in continuing this battle. When the Frenchman attacked him, he saw a hole the size of a coin in the right side of his chest. He also noticed an excited expression and a lot of talking, all of which was just to distract attention. Now Logan is sure that with all the artifacts he is ready to defeat a high-ranking knight. But we must not forget that he also suffered serious injuries. Soon, despite all the difficulties and problems, Logan reached his house. He assured me that everything was fine with him and that he had only slightly damaged his armor. The return of the eldest heir caused a lot of commotion in the McLean family. He looked too beaten up, and no one liked it. Of course, this was not enough to officially accuse Befros, so the incident had to be forgotten. Logan assured his father that they would soon pay for all their actions, but for this they needed to reorganize their forces. If everything is done correctly, the McLean family will soon become even more powerful. The youngest heir to the family did not forget about training. Like his older brother, he trained day and night. He remembered his older brother's words that the war would soon end, and during that time the Ronin should make progress. He doesn't want to be treated like an ordinary child. His brother was insulted in the Bifrost family, and he needs to take revenge for this. Soon they met and Logan introduced him to Victor. Now they will train together. They are the same age and Victor has also awakened his power so they can motivate each other. It looks like these two want to spar right now. The result might be too harsh. Logan ordered the fight to begin, and as soon as Victor heard this, he immediately began counting in his usual manner. He activated the Iron Blood Sword skill. It felt like he had awakened many years ago. Ronin is not going to constantly defend himself. He wants to respond and show off his skills. Although these two are very young, they already show extraordinary skills during battle. Ronin looked at his opponent and called him a real monster. There is a grain of truth in these words. Logan calmly watched the battle of the younger generation. He liked what he saw. Victor not only perfectly mastered the Iron Blood Sword, but also learned to use it in his own style. Ronin, already much stronger than a mid-ranking knight, even despite his limitations in swordsmanship. He moves freely and calmly, so these two complement each other perfectly. A little later, Logan went to see the sorcerer Clayton to talk about Rhea. He said that this girl saw mana, which means she can become a sorcerer. Earlier, Logan told her that she should try to study different areas in order to understand what her strengths are. She looked hesitant then. Logan wanted to cheer her up. He had his suspicions when they first met, but he didn't think she actually saw other people's mana. Clayton approached her and directed his mana in her direction. The girl had to say where this energy was going. Soon she pointed her finger at the master's apprentice, and she was not mistaken at all. Clayton was very excited. Not even the best wizards can see mana. This is a unique ability. There will be a lot of noise if everyone finds out that Logan can see it too. He wants to make sure that the girl really wants to study magic. Rhea replied that if it would help her in life, then she agreed, especially if she could make beautiful dolls. That's a pretty good goal for a little girl. At least Logan is happy. They agreed that Clayton would start training this girl. She had the talent to become a great sorcerer, so both twins were geniuses. Now there are even more questions about their parents. It will be interesting to uncover this mystery in the future. Every day, the McLean family becomes stronger, the knights undergo training, and become true professionals in their field. The new generals really want to become close to Logan. They are ready to carry out any orders to do so. Of course, they are surprised when he asked to bring some wood to light a fire, but it's better than nothing. There were also rumors that Logan was constantly walking around unprotected, which was completely wrong. Logan's journey has two goals: first, to identify potential changes in the future, and then to meet the third prince. The current ruler of the Grand Duchy had no heirs until he was 40, so he summoned two women from the duchy, who bore him two sons. 10 years passed after these events, and the queen gave birth to her third son when she was 40 years old. The third son has an innate talent for fencing and good manners. He became better than his brothers and received prospects of becoming king. The king also believed in this boy, but the families of the two princes did everything they could to stop the expansion of the third prince's influence. Next, Logan talks about events that were supposed to happen in the future. Before the third prince reaches adulthood, a civil war will break out and the king will die. The first prince, Juan Douglas, will receive the support of his grandfather, as will the second prince, Jordan Walterman. Since the third prince has no political power in any faction, he is almost executed. The boy will be very lucky that the duke will intervene on his behalf and force the others to leave the prince alive. The most prominent of the aristocrats, who takes a neutral position, saved the life of the third prince. After that, the first principle will prevail. But after 5 years, it will lead the country into chaos until the Empire attacks. That king will use the Ronin as bait during the war with the Empire, so Logan will not allow him to become king. The second prince is almost the same. So Logan must see with his own eyes whether the third prince is capable of becoming a normal king. Together with his men, he decided to go to the Duke of the Sword. Rick still hasn't found a wife. Maybe this time things will change. He believes that he will do Logan a great favor if he establishes a family connection with the Duke's family. The heir to the family didn't like such conversations very much, so he had to teach the servant a lesson. Logan was invited to meet the Duke. Everyone else must follow Sir Ermin. At first, Logan was unsure that he was really seeing this man in front of him, but then he learned that it was indeed Luis Hyon, the commander of the Liberation Front Guarantees. Unlike Logan, who always dreamed of revenge, this man had his own ideals. Logan clearly remembers their last meeting, when Louis asked for help and Logan agreed to it. He carried out the order. even though it cost him his own life, a rather high price for help. It's hard to even remember it now, but it's better to keep yourself in check and not show unnecessary emotions. They greeted each other and talked for a while. Louis said that you need to take care of your health while you are still young. In his past life, he also constantly talked about this. It must have been his favorite topic. Soon it was time to meet the Duke, and his wife was also with him today. They greeted their guest and invited him to sit down, and it was immediately apparent that they were happy to see him. Roman was very surprised when he was told that their future child would be named in his honor. They discussed it for a long time. It all came about thanks to him, so it would be correct to name the child Logan. The name defines and illuminates the path that the child will take in the future. The inhabitants of the grandeur believed in this since ancient times. Aristocrats looked for respectable people to honor and name their child after. They even held parties to celebrate their children's names. And now the Duke has also found the right name for his future son. Logan replied that there was no problem with that and made the Duke's family very happy. After the wife left, it was time to talk about men's affairs. The Duke is surprised by the rapid progress of this young heir to the McLean family. It's time to see what he's capable of in real combat, and whether he's become better than he was in the past. Logan immediately decided to show that he had been constantly training and had achieved significant improvements in his characteristics. Since this is a battle with a master, the Duke can show his maximum capabilities. This is their first training session since they became student and teacher, and there is tension. Logan doesn't want to appear too weak. On the contrary, he wants to impress his mentor. His attacks have become much more powerful. It is no longer comparable to what it was before. Although, it must be admitted that all this is just child's play compared to the real legend named Felix. This Duke didn't just become a swordsman. He trained for thousands of hours in a row and didn't forget his skills even after many years. The Duke ordered the boy to show everything he could and never again to upset him with such performances. These words were enough to provide maximum motivation. Logan tried to attack as aggressively as possible, but his opponent felt his every move. This battle continued for many hours, but the result was always the same. Logan's strength has increased since their last meeting, but his skill hasn't changed at all, and his fundamentals have become lower. To master a sword well, it is not enough to put all your strength into one movement. Fundamentals should be the basis for strengthening yourself. Even if you move to a new level thanks to luck or talent, it will only increase the height of the next step. Logan easily gained his powers because he went back in time and retained memories of past experiences. He spent all his time on the secrets of the divine sword, but now he understands how foolish his action was. Looking back, he misjudged himself because everything went according to his plan, but now he realized his mistakes. Logan asked to be given another chance to fix the fundamentals, which was strange because the result was the same. He will have to rest for some time because a concussion is a serious problem. You learn sword technique through your whole body. Only through constant training can you make progress. The Duke likes this guy's determination. He is sure that sooner or later Logan will achieve great success. A week later they met again, by which time Logan was already looking much better. Duke Felix learned that his student, at his adult age, still did not have a girlfriend and said that this was a shame. Felix wants to find a partner for this young guy, although Logan would like to concentrate on training. The Duke explained that a good heart needs to be properly trained. He only realized this after meeting his wife. Logan still doesn't understand anything. The war will start in a few months. He has no time for women. In any case, he can't ignore his teacher, so he will have to meet the woman he chooses for him. Soon this long-awaited meeting finally happened. It was already a few days away. Thus, young Logan McLean met Eileen Floyd, and it was immediately clear that they were a perfect match. This girl is too beautiful for such a guy. At least that's what Logan himself thinks. He was very surprised to see that his potential bride was also an aura user. She is at the peak of low rank and has almost reached the intermediate level, and all this at only 18 years old. Floyd is a famous surname, a talent of the Kingdom of the Grandee, who died after 3 years of war. She always stood out from the rest, protected the inner estate, and destroyed a huge number of warriors, Eileen Floyd, or the Steel Flower of Sura. This meeting turned out to be truly unexpected. It would have been nice to have gotten such a bride before the war started. The problem is that Logan has never heard of aristocrats getting married a few months after meeting. He looked at this beautiful girl and tried to understand what exactly he should do. She thought he was unhappy, as if he had been forced to come here. She feels similar feelings and wouldn't want to waste time. The girl immediately approached Logan and suggested that they spend some time together and have fun.